That, plus what we know and don't know about this ominous 2 p.m. press address from the Oval Office. It's all ahead, 11 o'clock hour at BPR and GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. A federal judge has ruled the Trump administration's use of the National Guard for Immigration Enforcement in Southern California is illegal. The state had sued after the White House sent National Guard troops to the Los Angeles area this summer, saying the law prohibits military enforcement of domestic law. NPR's Jasmine Guards reports.
Lawyers for the Trump administration argued the troops deployed to Los Angeles were protecting federal immigration officers. But a judge has ruled the administration violated federal law when it ordered troops into the LA area. However, the judge did not require remaining troops to be withdrawn. The ruling comes as the Trump administration discusses deploying the National Guard to other Democratic-led cities. Chicago, Baltimore, and New York have been named. The administration has already deployed National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. They've been patrolling parts of the city for nearly 3 weeks. Jasmine Garst, NPR News, New York.
Lawmakers are returning to Capitol Hill today after their summer recess. One of the top priorities is passing a bill to keep the government funded before the September 30th deadline. Democratic Senator Chris Coons says he expects a number of challenges, many tied to the Trump administration's policies.
President Trump and his allies in Congress have already been shutting down whole parts of the government through rescissions and now through unconstitutional and dangerous pocket rescissions.
And in a rare show of bipartisanship, both parties are backing a bill that would require the Justice Department to release government files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. President Trump says India has offered to reduce tariffs on U.S. goods to zero. NPR's Omkar Kandekar reports that Trump has often called India a tariff king for its high import duties.
In a post on Truth Social, Trump said the US-India relationship was one-sided because India puts high import taxes on American goods. He said India had now offered to, quote, cut their tariffs to nothing, but it's getting late. New Delhi hasn't commented on Trump's remarks yet, but trade negotiations between the two countries have been stuck for more than a month over India's unwillingness to let American companies sell agriculture and dairy products. Last week, the White House doubled tariffs on India to 50% for what it said was punishment for importing Russian oil. Trump's remarks came soon after Indian Prime Minister Modi met with Russian President Putin and Chinese Premier Xi Jinping at the SCO summit in China. Analysts see this as an attempt to unite against the US. Omkar Khandekar, NPR News, Mumbai.
Stocks are trading lower on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 381 points. The Nasdaq Composite down 282. This is NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. More than a third of general contracting companies across the country say they've been either directly or indirectly impacted by the ramp-up in immigration enforcement actions by the Trump administration. So says a new survey by the Associated General Contractors of America and the National Center for Construction Education and Research. The report shows that the group that number is expected to only go up. 5% of respondents said one or more of their sites have been visited by immigration enforcement agents. Another 10% said that they have had workers quit or fail to show up out of fear of being detained or deported. And 20% say they were indirectly affected when subcontractors lost their workers. The survey was conducted in July and August, right after President Trump signed that one big, beautiful bill into law. That bill allocated billions of dollars to immigration enforcement and border security efforts, as well as new funding for ICE. The report says the construction industry already faces a shortage of some 450,000 workers. A nonprofit organization dedicated to ending food insecurity on Nantucket has received $1 million anonymous gift. The Inquirer and Mirror reports the Nourish Nantucket will use the money to pay for food access for island residents. In a statement, Nourish Nantucket said the donation will help to get food to people who need it most and without delay. Sunny day today, high upper 70s. We're at 74 in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Indeed, committed to giving job listings increased visibility with relevant candidates through its sponsored jobs feature. Learn more at Indeed.com/NPR. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Margery Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I'm going to be back here tomorrow at the library with Education Secretary Patrick Tutwiler to talk about back-to-school stuff on September 5th. That's Friday, right?
It is.
Keith Lockhart co-hosts BPR with us. That's going to be great fun. Again, here at the library. We'll also feature Brian Stelter, Chief Media Analyst for CNN, and all book.
Summer's
Hi,
over.
Jim.
Summer's over.
I know, summer's over. It's summer's over. Oh my God, summer's over. It was so nice to get a respite, and now it's all over now.
Well, it's not all. Actually, at the end of the show, I'm going to give people tips about how to keep the summer spirit going, so just stick around. Right now, the lines are open on the state of our so-called democracy. Earlier this year, you'll remember, Philippine journalist and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Ressa warned us on this show that Americans have until the start of summer to protect against authoritarianism from the occupant in the White House.
VDEM told us publicly that if the trends in America continue, that democracy here will die by the summer.
You just subscribe to that yourself?
It depends on Americans. Mm-hmm. Actually, I've been really surprised by, the deer in headlights. When I listen to people say, well, we'll wait till the midterms. I was like, how do you know the midterms are even going to happen?
Exactly. Well, summer not only came, it went. Yesterday, thousands of labor unionists marched in Boston and around the country. It was great. But if the rest of us stuck our heads in the sand for too long, Congress returns from recess, still embroiled with the Epstein thing. Medical professionals practically unanimously are warning not to trust the CDC, and a hiring push at ICE is pulling in thousands of people itching to, quote, defend the homeland and enact Trump's mass deportation campaign. So what do we do now? Many of us spent this summer turning off the news. Is it time to turn it back on, maybe to do something about it? Or is more head in the sand time what you plan to do come fall? 877-301-8970. We've had tons of people call us during the summer, Margery, saying, I'm just taking a break. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to take a break. Maybe in the fall I'll get back to this thing. Do you think people will, or they will decide that the horrors are so overwhelming and so undefeatable, even though there was a great decision, we'll talk to John King about it at 11:30, from a federal court stopping Trump from using troops in Los Angeles. But do you think people are going to do more head in the sand stuff?
I don't know. I mean, we've heard a million times that Democrats are looking for leaders to lead us to do something. I mean, Gavin Newsom has been very outspoken against Trump. Pritzker in Illinois has been very outspoken against Trump. We did have thousands of people.
There's also Wu and Healy. You heard of them?
Well, I was going to mention the mayor of Boston. She's been very outspoken. Warren has too. We had thousands of people in the street.
That was great.
Yesterday, all around here and all around the country, workers' rights and protections. But I don't know. I think the idea, many people have said this, that one of the reasons behind all these troops being sent out, National Guard troops, et cetera, is to intimidate people. This is way ahead, but nonetheless, way ahead of the 2026 elections, keeping people from coming out to vote, sending troops in under the guise that there's some kind of unrest there. And, as many have pointed out, the idea that this is really about crime is belied by the fact that states run by Republicans have cities with much more serious crime. Memphis, Tennessee, in Mississippi, in Ohio, much more serious crime. But he's not sending troops there because this isn't really about crime, just like his attacks on Harvard have nothing to do with anti-Semitism.
877-301-8970. So what's your game plan for the fall? I mean, in the last couple of days, we found out Trump plans to tax the importation of foreign drugs, which will raise the price of already unaffordable pharmaceuticals. Military in the city withhold $5 billion of funding without congressional approval. China has a meeting. It's taking over world leadership. Healthcare infrastructure in this country is an unmitigated disaster under RFK Jr. 500,000 federal workers have lost their union protection. 1.2 million immigrants, fewer immigrants, are in the workforce in this country, which I don't know virtually anybody cheering about. What were you going to say? I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, I was talking about the whole papers, please kind of thing, where all around the country you have ICE people just stopping people on the street. And, that's what used to happen in Germany, or the KGB in Russia, and people with masks on their faces, which is really problematic, stopping people. And when you stand up to the president, you get purged, basically. We've seen Department of Justice attorneys who've been forced out of their jobs, people who object to him, truth tellers get purged. And one of these stories I read this morning talks about this, Abrego Garcia, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's been basically tormented by the United States federal government without proof, without real due process for months because he embarrassed the Trump administration. So he's paying a big price. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's upsetting. I guess I get why people took the summer off, because it's so upsetting that when you have to come back and think about it again, it just puts a big rock in your stomach.
So here's my analysis before we get to the calls. People will continue to zone out unless they find leaders who give them a game plan. If they think there's no way to respond to this litany of horrors, there's no path to resistance, they'll continue to try to ignore it as much as they can. And I think the second they find somebody who's got a game plan, whatever that may be, I think they zone right back in. At least I hope they do. 877-301-8970 is our number.
Let's go to Susan from Magnolia.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent, sort of.
Okay, so my question, can I shut my radio off? And
we would like you to.
Yeah.
Thank you. That'd be a very good thing.
Okay, let me do that. Okay,
we'll
cool.
wait.
All right.
Go out for coffee. Or
I think I did it.
Take a break.
Hi. Okay. So I think that we should never have taken the time off. I think we should have never been bitching and moaning, pardon my French, about what the Democrats did or didn't do, because the writing was on the wall, what this administration and all the people around him have been talking about. As Kamala pointed out, there was a blueprint, what they were going to do. And it's not the time to take off. I think the whole Epstein situation is deeper than anybody wants to believe it is. I think follow the money. I think it's about world domination with bigger countries than we even, and people that we even don't even believe were involved. And I think it's time to just buckle up and do the hard work. And leaders are out there, and we need to just stand behind them and know that Republicans have been doing nothing over and over again, and they're getting pummeled in the states that Bernie Sanders is showing up, and they're starting to realize they believed a lie that was so out there the whole time. The truth has always been there, and I think we have to really pull together. And sorry, it's uncomfortable, and sorry it cuts into our summertime, but
Susan,
our democracy is going to be gone.
I'm glad you turned the radio down. That's exactly the right attitude in my book. Thanks so much for starting off the show with it. Here's an anonymous texter. While you were on vacation several times, Jim, many of us were working both for pay and working against Trump. That works never stops. When's Jim on vacation next? I'll let you know in a few days.
Joanne in New Bedford saying, what would you have us do? We protest, we write to Congress, nothing changes. I'm stumped, especially when our Democratic leaders give us platitudes and Democrats allowed RFK to get approved.
I don't think that's true. Didn't he get approved with all
Cassidy
Republican
was
Cassidy was in the committee.
Yeah,
Dr.
the committee
Cassidy,
vote.
Senator,
Yeah.
When Joanne from New Bedford says, what we have people do, we're asked that all the time, and we ask the question all the time too. I think the first thing to do is get informed. I think the likelihood of action, whatever that action may be, automatically if you pay attention to what's going on, not every day, every hour practically, there's another abomination. It's really incredible.
And what's incredible is just how it's almost every time. It seems like it's every time now he opens his mouth, he's telling some kind of lie. CNN put together 10 debunked lies that he's talking about there being gas under $2. Well, there's not gas under $2 all across the country. Never been such low gas prices. That's not true. And he talked about a 1,500% reduction in prescription drug prices. Now, you say the problem with that is if you had 100% reduction in drug prices, the drugs would be free. If it's a 15, and that's not true, obviously, and a 1,500% reduction, that would mean, I guess, the drug companies would have to pay you to buy the drugs.
And they have to drive you to the pharmacy and pick it up.
But and then he says there's no inflation. Well, there is inflation, and no other country in the world does mail-in voting, but the United States. Well, actually, lots of other countries do mail-in voting, including Canada and Australia, the United Kingdom, et cetera. So he just says these things, and I don't know if people believe him or
I think
what.
they don't care. I don't think they believe it. I think it doesn't matter what he says if you're a Trump supporter, as long as he's staying the course, whatever that course is. Tim from Lynn, you're
what
next.
Is the course?
Well, let's.
That's
actually,
a good question.
Tim may
what
tell
is
us.
The course?
Tim and Lynn, welcome to the show. Hi.
The course is exactly what was just explained, is one side can only see what they can see. Okay. You guys have been on here saying, should we ignore the tyranny or should we fight the tyranny? Yeah. There's another argument that there isn't tyranny.
Explain it.
Nobody on the show ever talks about it.
Explain it to us. How there's no tyranny.
Well, so what would you like to change about the drops in crime stats in Washington, D.C.? You want more murders?
Well, let me ask you, I'll respond to that by saying he said he's sending him to Boston. We are either the lowest crime, assuming you believe Mayor Wu, or the fourth lowest crime rate major city in America. So is it a great idea to send troops here? Not to mention that it's illegal, according to...
Absolutely.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What is your fear? That they're going to start going into people's houses? What is the concern?
My fear is the purpose of the military is not to do domestic police patrolling. My fear is that by excuse me, Tim, you got your point out. I'm going to get mine out with or without you, and then you can respond, and I hope you do. The point is imposing a tax on foreign imported drugs will raise pharmaceutical prices. Eliminating our soft diplomacy by getting rid of all USAID help around the world cedes the world stage to China. Eliminating the wind farm that was 80% complete off Rhode Island eliminated 1,000 jobs. I could go down all day. Tell me how that is not, to use your word, tyranny. All those. Oh, Tim, you hung up. Wait, I want to say this. Tim hung up. Tim, you can call back, but I believe you won't have the courage to call back because you don't have a response to any of this
Well, the thing about Washington is, I said earlier, it's not true that this is about crime, because places like Kansas City, St. Louis, Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, all these places that are run by Republican governors have much worse crime rates than Washington, D.C. does. Do they not?
They do. I read the same stories you did. I totally agree. So, Tim from Lynn, we're dying to hear from you again. Nick in Hartford, in the meantime, you're on Boston Public Radio. Hey there.
Hey there. Hope you guys are all right, all things considered.
You too, Tim.
Yeah, it is objectionable as hell to me that anyone is going to make the case that they need to just ignore the news. Now, I totally get that it cannot be an all-consuming, practice or hobby. You can only absorb so much without actually ignoring the world outside. You do need to go outside and engage with people and remember that everything you see on a phone or a screen, it's all coming at you at a speed that it seems like everything is happening all at once, and it's not. Everything can be managed. Everything can be dealt with. But if you totally ignore it, then you're just operating on vibes. And operating on vibes is how we got to a situation where the answer to the very real problems that all of these Trump supporters brought up for decades led us to this point. They wanted someone that reflected their anger, and that's it. Without any answers, without any evidence, now we just have this. And there are people out there that don't have the luxury to not watch the news for fear that they're going to be rounded up. Grow up.
Nick, can I, by the way, you're an excellent caller yet again today. And while I am with you 100%, I have to say, in the spirit of some transparency, maybe not about the news, but when there are things in my life that I feel that I can't adequately deal with, I tune them out too, hoping they'll sort of go away or somebody else will solve the problem. And in light of the fact that we're never really able to answer the question of callers, is what's the prescription for resisting this in an effective way? Until the average person knows that, it is understandable, even though you and I both agree they shouldn't do it, it is understandable that some people choose to tune out, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. I guess what I mean is you can't, as cruel as it sounds, you can't feel or cry for every single awful thing that you see. Mm-hmm. You will never get anything done if you only focus on it. Yeah. I guess what I mean is if you can't, years and years ago, here's a better example. George Clinton was actually a relative through marriage to me. And the good story is that when his son went off to college, the advice was, read the paper for 10 minutes a day. Anything beyond that, you're going to get into interference with your studies. And it sounds funny coming from someone like George Clinton, right? But it makes sense. You at least need to have some cursory idea of what it is, even if it is just watching the news hour for an hour every night. Just something.
I agree.
I understand. No one's asking you to fix everything. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
But you at least need to know.
Stay informed.
To have a sense of how you want to move forward.
By the way, that was a great call, Nick. For those who don't know, George Plimpton book was
great
The Paper
writer.
Lion.
Yeah.
And in addition to being
Detroit
a great writer,
Lions.
he went and played, not in a game, I don't think in a game, for Detroit Lions. Isn't that, he did a lot of those kinds of things.
Didn't he actually play in an actual game? I could be wrong. We should check that out. I think he played in an actual game, but I'm not sure.
But whatever, he did a lot of things that were that kind of extraordinary experience.
Yeah.
He was great, and a great writer, as you said.
Yeah, he was very talented. But it's a hard thing, though, because I feel like we've never been close to anything like this.
I would agree with that.
I mean, what's one of the scariest things to me is people who stand up and try to tell the truth get purged. People who defended the police officers in January 6th lose their jobs.
Justice Department people, yeah.
It's like everything is upside down. So I feel like we're in a big emergency. Yeah. And I don't know if we're going to make it to 2026 elections, and I don't know if those elections are going to be fair. We have the efforts in states like Texas to gerrymander to the point where Democrats can't win, and Democrat states are trying to do the same thing, which is pretty pathetic, but they almost have to compete. So I don't know if we're going to make it.
Nick from Hartford just gave the 10-minute advice from George Plimpton. Similar advice from Zoe. Biggest media consumption lesson I learned in college in Boston during the marathon bombings. My journalism professors, as we were locked in our dorm room, sent out notices, watch the news in 10-minute increments, and then turn it off and connect with your own community. I mean, that's pretty, so that's two people in 2 minutes, kind of.
But again,
handle what you can.
Again, we were not in this kind of situation when the marathon bombing happened. We were not having a freedom of speech curtailed in the United States of America. We were not having people kidnapped and disappeared off the streets, whether they are legally in the United States or not legally in the United States. I mean, we couldn't imagine that happening. So we're in a different place.
Lisa Mayer, hi.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm an artist. I think it's called previously when I was... Sorry, the echo. Hold on. I'll keep going.
Okay.
I think I called when I originally became an artist. I lived in Texas for 6 months as part of residency. Anyways, I just want to say the artist community is very involved. They are doing whatever they can to be at the protests, have the signs and do what they can. And I just want to say I get it that people can't donate, can't always protest, or just don't have the brain capacity. But find out what your strengths are. Join your local indivisible chapter so at least you know what's going on in your community. And, I wasn't able to go to the protest because, unfortunately, I'm usually working those days for art markets and stuff. But I made sure to provide signed artwork and T-shirt artwork and gave them full permission to use that art to promote the cause.
That's great. That is fabulous. And I have noticed that the artist community is deeply involved in whatever you want to call this. Lisa, that's great, and thanks for sharing that with us. An anonymous texter says, the best way to fight back is to hit the wallets of those in charge. Don't buy their products, don't work for their businesses. But another anonymous texter says, the American population's ability to sacrifice to protect democracy is like Jim's boycott of Amazon or Tesla or Walmart or Target or Market Basket or Twitter, short-lived. Well, I'm guilty as charged. He makes, or she makes, or they make a wonderful point. Alan in Lincoln, welcome to the show. Hi, Alan. Alan. Ann, I'm so sorry. Ann, I misread it. Ann, hi.
Ann.
Hi.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, well, if you're Ann, we can, yeah.
Yes, great. Hi, Jim. Hi, Margery.
Hi there.
Listen, hi. I went to 3 protests this weekend.
Good for you.
I did 2 on Saturday, and I went to the labor parade in Boston on Sunday. And I've got to say, the labor parade was nice that it was such a mixed group. And by the way, it wasn't just labor people there. There were a whole lot of people there supporting with signs about every complaint you can imagine. But it's great for them all to come together in solidarity with all the union people. But the real issue here is, especially on Saturday, I mean, I know it's a holiday weekend, but there are no young people going to these smaller town protests. And it's unacceptable. It's time to scold the younger generation. They've got to get off their phones and get into the streets with everybody else, the older folks that are going to show them the way. They've just got to participate.
Well, Ann, I just want to corroborate what you said. The labor rally, which was huge in Boston,
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, actress, author, and now novelist Marianne Leone. Her latest book, Christina the Astonishing, is a coming-of-age story charting the comedic course of Christina Falcone, a student at Precious Blood Catholic School who finds a way to break out of her very Italian enclave outside Boston to find a life of creative and intellectual freedom. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Cambridge School of Culinary Arts in Porter Square, offering teen and adult recreational cooking and baking workshops, series, and cooking couples classes for culinary enthusiasts. CambridgeCulinary.com. And Showcase Cinemas. Downton Abbey, the grand finale, opens Friday, September 12th at Showcase Cinemas. Ticket information at showcasecinemas.com or on the Showcase Cinemas app.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH. I'm just laughing. Anonymous texter says, hello, the young people are working. Sorry we aren't retired and able to stand around with a sign. That is really pathetic. I am Jim Browdy. She is Margery, and we're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here tomorrow with State Education Secretary Patrick Tutwiler. And by the way, in a couple of weeks, we have 2 special broadcasts. We're going to be at our NEPM affiliate in Springfield, September 15th and 16th, Monday and Tuesday. And among the people who are going to join us, Governor Patrick will be in the studio. The AG, Andrea Campbell, will do an hour of Ask the AG. Congressman McGovern will zoom in, et cetera, et cetera. If you're just tuning in, we're doing a democracy check-in and asking if, for those of you who decided to tune out for the summer, are you tuning back in now that summer is sadly over? 877-301-8970.
You see Benjamin and Brighton on why there aren't any young people in Newton and Brookline?
That's a good one.
He says, are there any young people in Newton and Brookline? Maybe look for young people in places they could actually afford to live.
That's a good one.
Although I got to say, that King's protest that was a while ago, that was mobbed in Boston with tens of thousands of people, that was really white and really old.
Yeah.
So
that wasn't the case with the labor thing.
No, the labor thing was not, but the No Kings thing.
You know, I'm going to mention this later. Connie and Natick text, in the news over the weekend, I greatly admire Rudy Giuliani for coming to the aid of a stranger, domestic violence victim. I wish him a complete recovery from his serious injuries. Let me be, Connie, my apologies. Do people believe that that's what really happened before he had this car accident?
I'm a little suspicious.
I'm a little suspicious. In any case, stay tuned, Connie. We're going to address that a little later in the show. Paul in Wellesley, you're on BPR with Margery and Jim Bradley. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
And to you.
I'm grateful for the chance to say something about this.
Thank you.
First of all, we have to hope and pray that people will become more engaged now, because it seems obvious that the administration of that White House occupant is focusing on ways to use the military improperly. But you've frequently said that people are waiting for a prescription or some kind of suggestion about how to respond. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to suggest, a famous folk singer, I think it was Woody Guthrie, said, "Don't wring your hands, organize." Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be that difficult. It's not rocket science. There are groups of people who care about this. People are calling into the show, and the people clearly care. It wouldn't be that hard to form small groups and identify certain specific intersections and spots in Boston. Let's say that it does become clear that there's going to be some out-of-state National Guards moved into Boston. It wouldn't be that hard to just identify certain intersections, certain central kind of locations throughout the metro area where people could gather and just communicate to these military activated people that they're not welcome.
Hey, Paul.
Obviously,
have you joined or led one of these small groups that are easy to organize that you talked about?
Well, I have attended many, 7 or 8 organizations in my town, or demonstrations. But so far, we haven't gone far enough of forming into little squads or action groups. I haven't. I'm articulating this idea to try to suggest that there are things we can do, and it's not that hard to figure what they are. I mean, we cannot be violent, but...
Understood. A lot of people have heard you, Paul, in the last few minutes, so hopefully they're going to follow your lead. Thanks for the call.
It's interesting to consider, too, people that came here from other countries, even if they came here decades ago, are very nervous about joining in a lot of these protests. Mm-hmm. People that came from countries that may not be on Trump's list. So something like, 4 in 10 Bostonians weren't born here? It's some very large number like that. So you think if that's around the country, that we're losing millions of people because they were born someplace else and they're afraid of ICE.
So an anonymous texter responds to me responding to Connie and Natick, who texted and said she has great praise for Rudy Giuliani helping that domestic violence victim. And I said I wasn't totally convinced. Those are the facts. And the anonymous text says, are you suggesting there's a conspiracy with America's mayor? The man who made up a press conference at the Four Seasons actually didn't make it up. He held a press conference at Four Seasons Landscaping in Pennsylvania instead of the Four Seasons with black shoe dye in his hair dripping down, or lied about the elections. No, that wouldn't happen, says the anonymous texter.
Those 2 women that he accused wrongly of
Ruby Freeman
cheating in the elections. Did they ever get their money?
Well, they made a settlement. And as I said before, the thing I don't quite understand is they settled for less than $148 million because he was broke. He's so broke that after this accident in New Hampshire, we found out he has a security team, he has a driver, and he has a communications team, yet he has not enough money to satisfy even a significant part of that judgment.
I should have said their names. Maybe you did. Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman.
Ruby Freeman, yeah. Ruby Freeman's the
mother
mom.
And daughter.
Shay Moss the kid. They're incredible. Ken in New Hampshire, you got a minute. Take it away.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
And to you.
I'm not putting my head in the sand, and I'm not turning off. The reason is, or the problem I have, is that I'm not hearing anything new. We all knew the president is a horrible person, and it seems like show after show is people coming in and saying, look how bad this guy is and look what he's doing. So for me, as an independent who voted a straight Democratic ticket last fall, I'm done with these guys. I'm going third party.
Well, Ken, can I interrupt you for a second because I only have a minute? Elizabeth Warren was with us the other day, and I said something similar to what you said, and I used the term disparagingly rhetoric, and she said, don't undersell rhetoric. The point is, I think she was making, is that a lot of people like Warren and Newsom and Wu and others are trying to sound the alarm so that people focus and then maybe do what the prior caller talked about, form groups, do something. So I would urge you not quite yet to give up. Ken, thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Okay, coming up after this quick break, CNN's chief national correspondent John King with the latest political headlines, including what is going to happen with this Trump press conference at 2 p.m. There's been speculation that it's going to address his health issues, but we don't really know. Maybe John King has some insight. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. CNN's John King is next.
The Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny pours his love for his home into high-energy dance beats and lyrics. Now, a university uses that music to teach students about Puerto Rico.
And it's using one or two songs from the latest album as a kind of structuring device for each class.
Class is in session. That's next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Boston Symphony Orchestra, celebrating 125 years of Symphony Hall. The towering music of Beethoven's Missa Solemnis, Mozart's Jupiter Symphony, and Mahler's Fourth Symphony opens the season. More at bso.org. And Revision Energy, a solar company and a Mitsubishi Electric heating and air conditioning contractor, offering customers the option to combine a solar array with a heat pump system to manage their heating and cooling at home. RevisionEnergy.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Margery Egan, Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back here tomorrow. Massachusetts Secretary of Education Patrick Tutwiler will join us as people are returning to school. On Friday, as we told you, Keith Lockhart of Boston Pops co-hosts BPR with both of us at the library. That's unless he backs out. If I were him, I would. He says he's not. And then on the 15th and 16th of September, we'll be broadcasting live from Springfield. Our NEPM colleague, Governor Patrick, will be in studio. Attorney General Andrea Campbell will be there in studio for an hour of Ask the AG. And Congressman McGovern will Zoom in, as well as others. Speaking of Zoom, on Zoom is John King, Chief National Correspondent, CNN, also behind the great reporting project All Over the Map. Happy Labor Day, John.
Happy Tuesday to you. Momentous day. I dropped my youngest, 14 years old, at high school. First day of high school.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Hope he doesn't start drinking too soon, John. That's all I could
I'm
say.
officially OLDER. I was already old. Now I'm older.
Okay.
Good luck.
So, John, what do we think is going to happen at this 2 p.m. press conference that Trump has called for today? What's the deal?
We're told by our CNN White House team that he's going to announce he's moving the U.S. Space Command, one of the military commands created during the first Trump term, moving it from Colorado to Alabama. This has been controversial, actually, for quite some time. The Air Force wants it in Alabama. It was put in Colorado. Then there was a controversy about it, and the Biden administration decided to just keep it in Colorado. But now they're going to move it to Alabama. And so your first reaction would be Trump's moving it from a blue state to a red state, and that's true. And Trump has a history of trying to reward red states. I would also be cautious about jumping completely to that conclusion, in the sense that this has been a bouncing ball since way back since the Space Command was founded.
I misunderstood, and I thought that the 2 o'clock thing was going to be a health update with all of the speculation around Trump. What do we know that's hard as opposed to speculation about Trump's health, John King?
He says in Truth Social posts and in one interview he did with the Daily Caller, I believe it was last week, that he's fine. Pictures of him in which he clearly has some bruises on his hands, and there's been no explanation for that. As you know, Jim and Margery, when he does these events, he often, he's doing them for a reason, to make this announcement that he's moving the Space Command. But he almost always takes questions, and you can be absolutely certain that would be a question. And you can, probably guess that the White House knows that's coming, and it may be one of the reasons they decided to have an open event, so that he can address it. The only thing he has not spoken a word about this, but he has posted on Truth Social that he's fine, better than ever, feeling great. But again, if you look, some of the images that have been seen show some pretty, good bruises on his hands, as if he struck something. Or I'll say this personally, as somebody with MS who occasionally falls, that's what my hands look like after a bad fall.
We shall see. In any case, we're talking to CNN's John King. So, John, there was
just one thing before we leave this.
Sure.
J.D. Vance was quoted as saying, that God forbid something happens, he's ready to step in. He's had great training. I didn't know if that was a smart thing for J.D. Vance to be saying.
If we were having this conversation, I was going to say 5 or 10 years ago, maybe 5 or 10 minutes ago, you would think, wow, that lacks taste, right? It lacks taste. But it's just, we live in this world, Margery, where I have no idea. I mean, yes, but my training tells me that's not very tactful.
Yeah. And it might be
the world we live in tells me the old rules don't apply.
Okay. I thought maybe Trump might not like that either. That was what I was thinking. Maybe. But I could be wrong. Okay.
So a decision from a federal court, I think this is former Supreme Court Justice Breyer's brother, and ruling that the calling up of troops by Trump in Los Angeles was illegal. And I know that in the decision, John, I believe in the decision, Judge Breyer said that it only applied to California. But we see on CNN this morning that ICE is saying Illinois could be this week. The acting head of ICE, Todd Lyons, said they're going to flood the zone in Boston in the near future. What does this mean for those actions, if anything?
Well, it's an excellent point. And again, we've talked about this before, where the Trump administration is testing its powers. The president is testing the limits, if there are limits, on his power. In the Los Angeles case, it was the federal judge ruled that essentially he did not have the legal right, in the judge's view, to use the United States military assets for domestic law enforcement, that violated the law. And so as obviously the president has federal law enforcement assets on the ground in the District of Columbia right now, and the clock's running out on that. Does he declare a state of emergency and try to keep it going? Because Congress is not going to be, the Republicans, don't have the votes to have Congress approve that. There'd be a Democratic filibuster. And now you see the threats for more immigration enforcement in other cities. And I think the question is, does that include National Guard actions? Does the president try to take what he did here in D.C. and what he did briefly for a different reason, but a somewhat related reason in Los Angeles? Does he try to do that mix? Is it just ICE and the FBI and the U.S. Marshal Service when it comes to Chicago or potentially Boston down the road? Or does he include a National Guard or any other form of a military asset? I think that's the question. And that lawsuit that is only limited, the ruling is only limited to California. Guess what? The administration, you assume, would read it to try to figure out, if we do something similar, how do we do it within the law, or at least within the law as described by this particular judge? You would assume they would do that. They sometimes like to defy the courts, but you can be absolutely certain the Trump administration critics will use that as ammunition if they feel they have to go to court to fight something.
Yeah, speaking of courts, just for a second, there was a piece in the Washington Post and New York Times over the weekend that's saying the Supreme Court has been very, I don't know what word I should use, agreeable to the positions of Donald Trump. There's so much, beyond this issue we're talking about using the military for domestic law enforcement. There obviously are the tariffs. Since we were on the air last week, a federal appellate court, 7-4, has ruled that most, not all of the tariffs, most of the tariffs are illegal. The Trump administration says they're going to appeal it. His attempt to fire a member of the Federal Reserve, which we discussed the other day with Elizabeth Warren, Lisa Cook is probably going to make it to the Supreme Court. So much of the Trump agenda is in the hands of these 9 unelected people, John King.
And so far, you're absolutely right. And as you noted, there have been several accounts recently, including over the weekend, that the Supreme Court, the highest court, the last stop, if you will, in appealing and litigating these issues, has been largely, not completely, but largely deferential to Trump in the use of presidential power, including saying that he can send people to countries with which they have no connection. to kick them out of the United States. Now, there will be more of these. I suspect there will be dozens more of these as different versions of the same question. What are the president's powers on issue X, right? It's tariffs. It's the use of the National Guard on domestic soil. It's probably some of these immigration roundups. Number one, one of the things they're trying to do in these immigration roundups is if people came into the country, you're not an undocumented immigrant if you applied for asylum. Mm-hmm. If you did that through the process, you're legally in the United States while you're waiting your hearing. There have been some cases where the Trump administration has said that was done during the Biden administration. We're not going to honor it. So these cases of all different sorts are going to make their way through the courts. To this point, this Supreme Court, this conservative majority with 3 Trump justices on it, has been largely deferential to presidential power. And we knew that even before Trump came back. Gorsuch, who was not a Trump appointee, has been in favor of presidential power. We know Alito and Thomas in favor of presidential power. I would argue as we go further and further down the line and more of these giant cases make it to the court, that Amy Coney Barrett could become essentially the most important person in America, or on some issues, in the sense that if the Chief Justice John Roberts tries to say, not so far, or try to have some compromise or some moderation of presidential power, he's going to need at least one ally, because that's the math on the Supreme Court. And so I think that she becomes fascinating, the Chief Justice as well, as more of these cases come up. Or does this conservative majority that Trump has keep saying, 8 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times, yeah, you have the power.
Did you just say Gorsuch is not a Trump nominee? No. He is. Did you say that? Or did I misheard?
Gorsuch is, I'm sorry about that. I did say that, but he is on the record even before he came to the Supreme Court, is what I meant. As a federal appeals court judge, he has been a broad advocate of more presidential power.
That unitary executive theory, whatever it is, the president should have more power, even apparently to break laws, which is, I think, disconcerting to people that
was your guy, John Roberts, Margery.
Yeah,
I know.
Well, I don't think as well of John Roberts as I used to, I must admit. But let me ask you something about just switching gears a little bit. There has been so much criticism of RFK Jr. From the medical community. Right here in Massachusetts and in other states are getting together. We talked to Ashish Jha, who ran the COVID response under Biden and is now a public health guy, he's a dean at Brown University, getting together to try to withstand the assaults on vaccines that RFK Jr. is sending us from D.C., and Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, the senator, who's a physician, who was the kind of deciding vote, who was very pro-vaccine, is now talking about some kind of oversight of the CDC. I can't imagine what's going to happen when all these people start to get their vaccines who are under 65 or are pregnant and find out they either can't get them or they can only get them if they pay for them. I mean, is he going to last? I mean, what do people think?
At the moment, he appears to have quite clear support from the President of the United States, who public health. That's his response. Trump seems quite proud. Trump has invited him to the White House several times for big announcements, if you'll notice, over the past couple of months. So he has the president's support right now. You make a key point. Number one, I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be a medical health expert, but you mentioned Dr. Jha. He was on my show when I had a show a long time ago, repeatedly during COVID.
He's great.
A bright, thoughtful, clear communicator. Is he right about everything? Of course not. He would say he's not right about everything, but he's a very thoughtful, and he's a science-driven human being. And there's a lot of horror in that community at what is happening in the federal government right now, because we have a system that is built on federal approval of these vaccines, and then federal endorsement and encouragement of people, whether it's you should get these vaccines or you're required to get some vaccines by a certain point. And so the public health community is horrified by what they see. The question is, I've talked to a couple people about this, is the worst part is if they are right, it'll be 5 or 10 years before you have enough data, enough cumulative data to say, we told you so. That's the problem, is it takes, and so you mentioned Senator Cassidy, and I think this is a different version of a question both of you have asked me in the past. Will any of the Republicans ever stand up to these people and say no? Here is one where it involves the lives of all Americans, but particularly if, as us older people would say, children first, right? Children first. Hurt me if you want, but not my children. And so I think it's a fascinating test as this goes forward. Does Dr. Cassidy, Senator Cassidy, who happens to be a doctor, and can he get enough allies to say no? No, sorry, you told us one thing in your confirmation hearings. You're doing something quite different, and we're not going to stand for it. I think that's a defining question from now through the end of the year as this plays out.
You know, John, one of the things I try to add to the show from time to time is something that's not, in my opinion, talked about nearly enough, are issues like morale, which we did talk to Dr. Jha about, and the health infrastructure, and fear. I spend a lot of my non-show time, as Margery knows, in the line at the pharmacy at Walgreens. And I do. I got to tell the truth. I'm at the Walgreens in Provincetown on Saturday, picking something up, and there are 4 people in line, in front of me. One is an older person who is asking the pharmacist, I think nervously, about whether or not he is, actually it was a woman, whether she was eligible for a COVID vaccination in September, and she is. She just didn't understand.
Because she's over 65.
She is over 65, right?
Or has a pre-existing serious condition.
Right, and there was a mother of a young kid, I don't know how old the young kid was, who asked a similar question, and I couldn't hear the details, so I don't know if her kid had the situation that would make her eligible. The point I'm trying to make is beyond the affordability that Margery mentioned, accessibility. CBS is saying they may not even stock all the shots because of the confusion. There's a fear factor, whether it's the ICE stuff with people who call our show, said they don't send their kids to school, they don't go to the doctor, they don't go to work, whatever, or this kind of thing that I think is underreported. Maybe, is that a fair analysis, John King?
I think it is a fair analysis. And on the vaccine issue you're mentioning, or access to health care issue you're mentioning, I think it's sort of a double whammy. Number one, can I still get this? Is the government telling me it's not safe? Is it still covered? Is it time? What should I do? And then the broader argument, which is, well, all of these people who have important jobs keep saying, you know, everybody's been wrong for the last 25 years, that these are bad for me, and that these cause, whether they cause autism or they do this or they do that. So you're both confusing people about what they can get today and what should they get today, what's best for their health today. And it's another piece of the undermining trust in an infrastructure and set of institutions that have been our compass when it comes to public health for all of our adult lives. And, you know, as a parent of 3 children, you know, I'm not saying I don't care about me. You know, I have a disease. I have to take a bunch of medications. If I didn't have a generous pharmaceutical plan, those medicines, if you didn't have coverage, would be in the ballpark of $100,000 a year for the 2 medications I take from IMS. Imagine,
oh my God.
Yeah, imagine John King of Dorchester, Massachusetts, you know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, forget about it, right? And so you have access questions, you have affordability issues, and now you have credibility, trustworthy, you know, is this safe? Should I take it? And yes, it causes confusion on all of these issues. You're right about ICE, and you're right about courts, and can I send my kids to school? Or if you're undocumented, or, you know, or your kid's going to go to school and you're going to get rounded up, you know, and taken into custody while your kids are at school. On this issue of health care, it's obviously a much more personal life or death issue, whether you're somebody who has a disease or of a certain age, you need medications, or whether you're trying to take care of your kids and how do you properly vaccinate them and all that. And yeah, it's confusing. And I think it gets at the bigger question about undermining faith in institutions. And who do you ask? Who do you trust?
Well, it's just incredible, really, because there was all this reporting about deaths during COVID and continuing on through the whole pandemic, that the people that were dying toward the end were people who didn't have vaccines. I mean, I think we know this already, don't we?
Well, also, can I add one thing to that, John, before you go ahead? We may have discussed this with you. You and I have discussed it. I would argue the single greatest accomplishment of 5 years of Donald Trump is Operation Warp Speed with the vaccine development, and now he can't even brag about it because his Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't like mRNA vaccines. I mean,
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. This is something where he could legitimately be pounding his chest and saying, we sped up this process and we saved lives. And so let's stick to it. And instead, he's questioning. You know, he did a Truth Social post last week that had me kind of dizzy. So a lot of them do that, where he bragged about Operation Warp Speed, but then said now all the companies need to prove it's still safe.
Yeah, and the other thing is Kennedy has shut down all this research on mRNA vaccines, and they're being used to advance such dread diseases as pancreatic cancer, but that's not happening under RFK. He doesn't think that's a good idea. But I wanted to ask you about the one thing that does seem to have upset a lot of Trump supporters is the Jeffrey Epstein case. Apparently, 10 or so of them, of the survivors of Epstein, are going to be talking about it. Ro Khanna has organized this, the congressman. And What's going to happen when Congress comes back regarding Epstein, do you think?
The Republican leadership is trying to find some way out of this to help their president in the White House, Donald Trump, who promised to release it all, and now they won't release it all for whatever reason. The Republicans are, passing a resolution praising the House Oversight Committee and saying to continue its investigation. But that's a distraction, right? It's a look, we're doing something. Speaker Johnson apparently is also going to meet with some of the Epstein victims. But I think you raised the critical point, Margery, to watch in the days ahead. It's Congressman Ro Khanna, a very liberal Democrat, and Congressman Thomas Massie, a very conservative, libertarian Republican, who say that, whatever Speaker Johnson says, they are going forward to push for this vote. To release everything, and that is a thorn in the Republican leadership side and in the side of the White House. Which again, if you look at Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, J.D. Vance, a whole lot of other people spent the whole campaign saying there's a whole lot of bad stuff here, and we're going to give it to you. And now they're saying we're not going to give it to you, and it's a problem with the Trump base.
So, John, before you go, everybody comments about you when you're on the show and what you do on CNN, talking about how talented you are, what a great journalist you are, and how kind you seem to be as a human being. Is it unkind of me to say that I was in exultation when I woke up this morning to find out that Bill Belichick had lost 48-14? Be honest, I can take it. I was reveling in his misery this morning. Should I?
You are entitled to that. This is America. You are entitled to your First Amendment right to gloat, to revel, to do all that.
Thank you.
I tell you, I watched the game, Jim, and I know I'm out of time. I watched the game, and I wasn't unhappy.
There you go.
Oh, that makes my day, my fall, my way. Are you one of those people? I should know this. I am one. I don't know if you know. I am one that it was primarily Brady and Belichick was there. I'm not saying he was a non-factor, but it was Brady. Are you in that camp, or are you an even Steven kind of guy?
Oh, I think it was more Brady. I think Belichick deserves a lot of credit for the culture, for the defense, for getting, having great defenses with not great talent, if you will. I think he deserves a hell of a lot of credit. I think that, since he's left the Patriots, it's gotten a little weird. I think they'll rebound. I think he's a good coach, but I was not all disappointed watching last night.
Well, as I say, that couldn't make me happier, that little euphemism there. John, it's good to see you.
He's been distracted, John. It's hard to concentrate on the game these days the way he used to be able to.
That's all yours, Margery. That one's all yours.
Okay. Thank you very much for being with us,
By the way, an anonymous texter says, wow, Jim, HIPAA means nothing to you, Mr. Eavesdropping?
That's right. I think we should be arrested,
I didn't
Jim.
identify anybody. See you, John. Take
Thank
care
you,
of
John.
yourself.
Great to see you as always. We've been speaking with John King, Chief National Correspondent for CNN. So we don't know what this press conference could be about the Space Force and not about health. Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Okay, we say goodbye to you listening on NEPM. We're really grateful you are listening, but you can tune into the fabulous 413 starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to be up there in person in just a couple of weeks. The show continues here in Boston. Coming up after the new news, we'll talk with the heads of the political parties here in Massachusetts. Steve Kerrigan of the Massachusetts Democrats and Amy Carnevale of the Massachusetts GOP. I am Margery Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Browdy and Margery Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Rockland Trust Bank, committed to helping individuals and local businesses work towards their financial goals by providing financial advice and resources. More at rocklandtrust.com. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC. Explore the rise and fall of one of America's most powerful and controversial presidents. Don't miss the definitive biography of Nixon on the next American Experience, tonight at 8 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on Hour 2 of BPR Live from the Boston Public Library. First up, a Tuesday afternoon politics panel with the head of the Mass Democrats, Steve Kerrigan, and his counterpart with the Mass GOP, Amy Carnevale. We'll get their take on new proposals for reform on Beacon Hill, what the state's role on the national stage ought to look like if and when Trump sends the National Guard to Boston.
I'm Margery Egan, then it's Boston Foundation CEO and President Lee Pelton. He just wrote an op-ed in the Commonwealth Beacon about civic duty and lessons learned from the late Tom Menino, plus takeaways from a new Boston Foundation report on food insecurity across greater Boston. All that, plus our Whirlwind Two More Things segment ahead on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A federal judge in California finds President Trump violated federal law when he deployed military troops to Los Angeles this summer. From member station KQED in San Francisco, Marisa Lagos reports.
Judge Charles Breyer is ordering the Trump administration to stop using the hundreds of National Guard troops to engage in a number of policing activities, including arrests, searches, security patrols, traffic, and crowd control. Breyer wrote the evidence at trial clearly established the armed soldiers were being used to conduct those kinds of police functions, in violation of an 1878 law passed by Congress prohibiting the military from being used against civilians. Breyer noted in his decision that since this case was filed by California Governor Gavin Newsom in June, the president has also sent troops to Washington, D.C., and threatened to dispatch them to other cities, including Oakland and San Francisco. The ruling won't take effect until September 12th. For NPR News, I'm Marisa Lagos in San Francisco.
Another threat of a government shutdown faces members of Congress as they return this week from their August recess. Funding for federal agencies runs out September 30th. The public will likely see another clash between those in favor of passing another stopgap measure and conservative Republicans pursuing a longer bill that favors their priorities. Also back in the spotlight this week, a bipartisan push for access to files about underage sex trafficking. The late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and powerful associates the files might implicate. Dozens of world leaders are arriving in China, some of whom represent the biggest security challenges to the West. In the coming hours, they'll attend a military parade marking the end of World War II. And NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports from Seoul, North Korea's Kim Jong-un will be there.
Kim traveled to Beijing in his personal armored train. He's expected to appear beside Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping at the parade. It would be the first known meeting of the three countries' leaders. And while the three men may hold bilateral meetings, South Korea's spy agency assesses that a formal three-way meeting is unlikely.
NPR's Anthony Kuhn reporting. In Afghanistan, the Taliban say the death toll from an earthquake Sunday is so far more than 1,400 people. NPR's Lauren Fair reports from London. Governments and groups from around the world have pledged humanitarian assistance, but it's been slow to reach the people who need it the most.
Britain is donating more than $1.3 million, split between teams from the United Nations and International Red Cross. That way, the British government says it'll ensure the money goes to quake victims rather than the Taliban. India has also delivered tents and food supplies. China, the UAE, the European Union, and others have all pledged aid that has yet to arrive.
That's NPR's Lauren Fair reporting from London. From Washington, this is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. According to officials connected to the Trump White House, the Trump administration continues to prepare for an immigration enforcement blitz here in Boston in the coming weeks. Politico reports that the latest plans, which could still change, would involve a surge of immigration and customs enforcement or ICE agents in the city and make Boston the latest Democratic-run city to be targeted by the president. This crackdown could come soon after a similar surge in Chicago, also planned for this month, but the operations could also happen at the same time. Trump has also mentioned a possible federal takeover of Boston's South Station. And we're just 5 days away from the start of the New England Patriots season opener at Gillette. And if you're planning on being there to watch the Pats take on Las Vegas, you'd better watch your mouth. Why? Well, because swearing at players or officials is against the law in Massachusetts. Chapter 272, Section 36A of the Massachusetts General Laws bans anyone over 16 from cursing at sports events, and if you're caught, you could be fined up to $50. USA Today says it's one of the many antiquated laws still on the books in Massachusetts. Speaking of sports, Red Sox Guardians play Game 2 of their series at Fenway tonight, 6:45 start. Big tennis match at the U.S. Open tonight. Taylor Fritz versus Novak Djokovic. That could be a final. 74 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive, with small business insurance for protecting a variety of business types with multiple coverage options, designed to fit business owners' needs. More about small business insurance is at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Margery Egan. We are live. Thank you from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Going to be back here tomorrow with Education Secretary Patrick Tutwiler from the beginning of school. On Friday, September 5th, Keith Lockhart is going to co-host with us here at the library. We're very excited about that. We'll also that day talk with CNN's Brian Selter, plus Live Music Friday, and actor-author Marianne Leone on her very funny new book, Christina the Astonishing. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Margery. Joined now at the library for a political party panel of sorts by Amy Carnevale. She is head of the Massachusetts Republican Party. And standing next to her is Steve Kerrigan, who is head of the Massachusetts Democratic Party. Both, I should say, fairly normal people, which is a good thing. Steve and Amy, it's great to see you both. Thanks so much for being here.
Great to be here.
So great to see you both. So let's start with something bipartisan, or maybe bipartisan. Jim and I spend an awful lot of time criticizing the legislature for being ineffective and not working that hard and passing no bills and all sorts of other outrageous things. But Jennifer Assur, who's been on with us many times, she co-wrote a piece.
Former job that Amy has, former chair of the party.
That's right. She's former chair of the party. I thought she and her co-author wrote a really good piece about a couple of reforms they could do so that legislators wouldn't have to rely so much on lobbyists and get these last-minute bills, something called a Nonpartisan Legislative Research Bureau and something called a fiscal analysis office, so they would know what they're talking about before they vote on things so they don't end up backfiring in their face. I think they do need a lot of help up there on Beacon Hill, but what about these two ideas? Since it's mostly Democrats that are disappointing us up there on Beacon Hill, what do you think?
Perhaps disappointing you, Margery, but not disappointing me.
Okay.
I think the ideas have merit. It's not my job to opine on the rules or what the State House or the Senate are going to do. I think anything that this legislature, which, by the way, I think has been one of the most productive legislative sessions, the last one in years, which may say more about the previous ones, but
okay. Aren't we like the least productive legislature in the United States of America?
I focus on our legislature, not the rest of the country.
Okay.
What are the highlights, do you think, from this term?
I think pushing the Affordable Homes Act was a big one. I think in the last couple of years, being the first legislature with Governor Healy to pass a tax cut, giving kids free meals at schools are critically important.
You think that tax cut was a good idea? We've asked Governor Healy this was a good idea, $1 billion in light of the fact that we're going to have a huge hole in our budget because of the cuts coming from Washington. In retrospect, was it a good idea?
Yes, because I think we as all levels of government, including this White House, who refuses to find ways to make living in this country more affordable. Governor Healy is focused on making Massachusetts more affordable, making more housing available to folks by building more housing stock, and she's not just promising things, but she's doing them. And you can't, as you know, you can't be frozen in time assuming President Trump is going to come in office and start freezing federal dollars. She had to act. She and the legislature acted. First governor in 20 years.
Hold on for a second. Where are the houses we are building? I know we're about
it takes a while
to
build a house.
Yeah, but that is one of the issues. We're always going to build them, and somehow I mean, maybe I missed it. Where are we building them, actually?
Well, so I can speak. I am now a retired member of my select board in my hometown. We have 82 acres of land that is owned by...
Did you lose? You get defeated?
I know. I retired.
Okay,
That's why.
fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like yourself,
Just
you're a
like
one-termer.
myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was a one-termer. We have a piece of land owned by DCAM, 82 acres. It's been surplus land for the state for a long time. The Affordable Homes Act has allowed DCAM to come in, partner with the town. We're going to be building 300-plus units of housing. Will be some affordable housing.
That's again my point.
Okay,
it's always going to be built.
They just passed the damn legislation last year.
Well, it takes time to...
I think this is one of the problems that things take forever.
It takes time to do zoning reforms.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy, are you willing to opine on this?
What about these two regulations? I mean, the point is, you're asked to vote on things you haven't even read because they're voluminous in numbers of pages and you don't have time.
Absolutely. Thanks for raising that. So, in fact, I actually testified at what was called the People's Hearing because there was the legislature refused to hold a public hearing on Beacon Hill on not only the measure for independent review of legislative bills that are progressing through on Beacon Hill, but also the second issue was legislative stipends and reform of stipends that are given to committee chairs that don't actually even hold committee hearings. And so I testified along with a number of groups who are traditionally thought of kind of on the far left of our political ideology. And I testified in support of that measure. And I've also signed on as one of the original co-signers of a ballot measure that's now with the Attorney General for approval to eliminate or reform the legislative stipend process.
So both of those things.
Yes, and both of those things. So it's really, and it's getting at the issue of on Beacon Hill not having hearings, being one of the least transparent legislatures in the country. So you don't have hearings, you don't have public debate, dialogue, and often the media is shut out as well. And so there's no opportunity not only for members of the Democratic Party to provide amendments, but media to have that transparency, or Republicans. And so we need balance, we need a two-party system, and we need
Well, you have to run better candidates. I mean, I've been saying for years, there need to be more Republicans in the legislature, but that's on you and the candidates. So why you have your hand raised?
I have my hand raised just because I agree with your point on being able to read the bills, which if we look back
That's radical.
I know. No, I know. I worked in the Senate. We read our bills. But I guarantee you the vast majority of House Republicans in Washington did not read H.R. 1. I guarantee you.
Which is also terrible.
And by the way, they didn't listen to the independent body that is nonpartisan, the Congressional Budget Office, that said that it was going to be trillions of dollars in added numbers to our debt and deficit. So they had an independent body that said
to read the bills and also have independent analysis by the Congressional Research Service, which in Massachusetts you do not have that.
Can we do one more bipartisan thing for a second that I am borderline obsessed with? Jennifer Nassour's co-author in that, was that Commonwealth Beacon where that was? Kempthorne, who we had on the show discussing question 1, the audit of the legislature thing. I always get this wrong. What part of the Democratic Party endorsed this question?
The state committee voted to...
and you're head of the state committee, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the state committee votes to have this happen. We have discussed it with Diana DeZoglia, the auditor, every month she's here. With Andrea Campbell, every month she's here. The legislature resists. And, well, let's start with you. Are you, in light of that vote by your state committee, are you content with the total, and this is a fact, not an opinion, total obstruction by the Democratic Party in the state with a ballot question that got a mere 71% of the vote?
Well, first, I don't believe there's been total...
near total obstruction.
The Attorney General has been working very hard, my understanding, with the Auditor's Office to get a better sense of the scope of what they're looking to do. Those are processes that exist outside of the great and many powers of the chair of the Democratic State Committee. I have many powers deciding
Shouldn't
those
state
things
Democratic leaders, since they're all Democrats, shouldn't they be working hard to ensure that the popular will is enforced even if Democratic legislators
Remember, the day that
like
ballot question was passed, they were reelected. So they are out there working hard on a number of issues like affordability in their communities, keeping down costs, increasing housing infrastructure and capacity, hopefully at a quicker pace for Margery, and a number of other things. And it's not the only thing on their agenda, but the process is taking place. And I know you've asked the Attorney General a lot about this.
Every month.
It sits with the Attorney General's office right now, and I think that's the appropriate place for it.
What do you think?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So the fact that this audit passed with nearly 72% of the vote statewide and still has yet to be implemented, and the Attorney General has not backed up the auditor, I think is a real travesty of justice. Our auditor has had to go to private counsel to raise funds outside of government spending in order to try to enforce the will of the voters. And it just, again, speaks to the lack of transparency and accountability that we see too often on Beacon Hill.
You know, Steve, I'm no fan of Donald Trump at all. We'll get to the national stuff in a second. But one of the things that you see people talking about in the Democratic Party is exactly what we're talking about things like housing reform, talking about child care, talking about all these issues, bread and butter issues that people are concerned about. But they don't happen. And I think that's the sense that it's all talk and very little action.
Yes,
We've been talking about child care help since my kids were little. My oldest kid is 40.
And the governor and the legislature have taken some steps toward that. But I will on the housing thing, I have to push back on you. It's the largest investment in housing infrastructure. The previous administration said they were going to do something about affordability of housing, and housing stock didn't. In the first 2 years of her administration, she passed the largest housing bond bill in the country, or in the Commonwealth's history. 225,000 units we were behind. And that was a conservative estimate. So we have to work hard to get that built. But as someone who, as I said, was just a town elected official, oftentimes you have to go through rezoning, which takes a town meeting bill.
That's one of the issues, that we have so many regulations, you can't build anything.
Right, but those are in the towns. Those are in the towns. Those are in the towns where those zoning regulations are. And so this Affordable Homes Act helps alleviate some of that. And as a matter of fact, in my town, where we thought we needed zoning reforms, we don't, because the Affordable Homes Act passed under Governor Healy eliminates the need to go through a lot of that.
Can I get into this? By the way, under Baker, the MBTA Communities Act did pass, which is a zoning thing, which is huge.
And by the way, let me just say, any house has been built around the subways?
But let me just say, but they have to go through zoning. It doesn't mandate building. It mandates zoning changes.
But we haven't.
That's up to local communities. But can I say one very good thing that you're ignoring, that you hope to live in one day, is in this
the granny
bill.
Flats.
No,
that's right.
Accessory dwelling. No, I'm serious.
Granny flats. That's my future.
What the legislature and the governor did, which they rarely have the courage to do, is overrode local zoning authority and said you can't stop, for the most part, these accessory dwelling units being built. That was a rare moment of standing up to local officials, and it's going to lead to a lot of moderate income people like you in old age living in your kids' backyard.
As long as one day it's not always leading to an actually there. That's what I'm worried about.
Can we go to national stuff, and we'll come back to some local races in a minute? Here's just the last few days, Amy Carnevale. While a court did strike down most, but not all, of the tariffs, Donald Trump has raised the cost of living with his tariffs. He wants to tax the importation of foreign drugs. His acting head of ICE says we're going to flood the zone with ICE people and others in Boston. He has taken away the collective bargaining rights of 500,000 workers. I'm just listing part of these. He has stopped an 80% complete wind farm off Rhode Island, costing 1,000 jobs. And I could go on and on and on. What is it that the president of your party is doing that is good for the people of Massachusetts?
Well, I'll just start with trade, because that's where you started as well, and I know it's in the news today on the issue of tariffs. He's fighting for fair treatment for America with other countries, and too often we've seen the U.S. be taken advantage of in trade negotiations, and we've seen with the president imposing tariffs, other countries have finally come to the table after decades of not doing so.
Well, the table they're going to, he has a 50% tariff on India, and the table that the head of India is going to is in China, and working with President Xi and President Putin. He imposed a tariff on a country in South America that was exorbitant, because he thinks a guy who is being tried under their democratic rules, a former president, for corruption is a good guy, just like he is. That he stated that's the reason for the tariff. So while in some cases it's been a benefit, in most cases you hear people interviewed, including small business people, which I know the Republican Party cares a lot about, saying these tariffs are taxing them into submission.
Yeah, so it's clear in the short term there's going to be some impacts, and there have been some impacts with tariffs. But again, I think the president is focused on long term and getting the U.S. back on solid footing with our international partners overseas.
How do you feel about bringing ICE and troops into Boston, which Todd Lyons promises he's going to do? We have either the safest, according to Mayor Wu, or the fourth safest, according to independent analysis, cities in America.
So I know Todd Lyons has said that the priority of this administration is criminal illegal migrants or illegal aliens, and that continues to be the focus of this administration. So
well,
I think
hold on.
I think
it's
to
not,
the extent
it's
that
not the focus.
We're seeing that our laws here in Massachusetts often do not allow for the detainers to hold those criminal migrants when they're arrested and be brought in safely in a courtroom setting or another or a facility.
Law.
That is the law.
Democratically passed in Massachusetts.
I agree. I think the law needs reform because the consequence of that law is they're being released onto the streets, and then it's an unsafe situation for federal law enforcement to go try to detain those individuals.
Do you want to see ICE or the military on the streets? Do you want to see them on the streets of Boston?
Brought into that.
Do you want to see them on the streets of Boston?
I think if they're targeting criminal, illegal aliens, those who have committed crimes.
You don't think our police forces are competent enough to target
I don't think
those
our
crimes?
police forces have the direction from the police chief and our elected officials to detain
But Amy
those
Carnevale,
individuals.
I think what we're seeing is not that. I mean, I think everybody wants to get people that are, murderers and rapists and all that. And by the way, the murderers are in jail. The rapists are generally not released onto the streets, whether they came from another country or not. They're staying in jails awaiting trial. But the thing we're seeing is people being snatched up who are often in the country legally seeking asylum, or they're stopped because they have dark skin, or they...
But often, again, in those cases, the target of those cases are those who have committed crimes.
But I guess I'm not seeing them. Why aren't I seeing the stories about the rapist that was being let go, who's been captured by ICE? I'm not seeing those stories. I'm seeing stories about women who drop their kids off at childcare, and they're with a 4-year-old kid, and at the end of the day, there's no mom to pick her up, or pregnant women, or you've seen these stories all around Massachusetts. The woman over at Tufts University. I mean, did you think the woman at Tufts University should have been hauled off by masked men?
Well, of course, you saw how that was resolved.
Yeah, but after she was detained for months and months and had asthma medication, and she couldn't get it. I mean, do you think that's...
I think that's not the target of this administration, and it shouldn't be. Again, the target should be those who have committed crimes.
Yeah.
So the good news is, to me, the American people don't support much of what Trump is doing, including this, which sort of surprised me, the deportation stuff. The bad news is they support the Democrats even less. And in fact, a poll we looked at this morning, even Democrats themselves, only 20% of them have a positive view of their own party. So again, the good news is Trump is stumbling. The bad news is the Democrats aren't seen as the answer.
The other good news is that since November, every time there's been a special election or a regular scheduled election, Democrats have outperformed or won, including last week where we broke the supermajority in the Iowa State Senate.
Which was a Republican seat, right?
Republican seat, which we flipped to a Democratic seat. The second Iowa State Senate seat that we've won this year. The good news is that the American people identify with the values of the Democratic Party, not the brand, which of course is a big problem because the brand is what people talk about you, say about you when you're not in the room. Which is a big problem for us, no doubt. But if they're voting on democratic values, which I firmly believe are Bay State values and American values, we're going to continue to win elections because they see very clearly what Donald Trump and the Republican Party are all about, and they are resoundingly rejecting.
When you see a poll that says, admittedly, it's what John King would say, come on, snapshot in time, that J.D. Vance is tied with Governor Newsom, who is right now the most popular Democrat in America, in a presidential poll. Does that not cause you great anxiety?
Anything that has J.D. Vance doing anything causes me great anxiety. But there's a long way to Election Day for that one, for sure.
When you talk about people running, Republicans running locally, I think one of the issues that has been for a lot of so-called normal Republicans in Massachusetts, and that's one of the issues. We don't see normal Republicans. We see Trump.
So I think that was frankly part of the reason that I ran for party chair.
That's right. You're normal,
Amy.
3
years.
That's what I hear.
I hope some people in my own party might not agree with you, but no, that's part of the reason that I ran for party chair, because I think we need to have more candidates who are active in their community, come from their community, active in recreational activity and business interest, and and have experience and can bring experience to the table when they're running for office.
So what's this going to look like? We have two Republicans, both of whom I think work for Baker in the Baker administration, who said they are running for the Republican nomination to challenge Governor Healey, assuming she's running for re-election. She actually announced on the show that she's running for re-election. We have Senator Markey, who is 79, and age is an issue. We talk about it a lot on the show. We have every one of the congressional seats up. Obviously, on the gubernatorial level,
and all the constitutional offices. I want to make sure
they're all
of them next year as well.
Oh, they are.
And they're all held by Democrats.
That's a very good point. Realistically, not pipe dream stuff. What's your goal here? Your goal can't be to run serious candidates in every office. They're just not going to happen. So what's your target?
Yeah, so obviously we are focused on the corner office, winning back the governor's seat. And looking back, Massachusetts does have a long history of electing Republican governors. And again, governors who kind of come from that business world and the more moderate side of our party. And
by the way, the most popular of them did not support the President of the United States passionately, I should say, Charlie Baker, for whatever that's worth. But go ahead.
Right. And so we have two candidates in the race at this point. Again, I think I would characterize both of them as coming from, having worked in the Baker administration, coming from more of the kind of center part of our party, and perhaps another person from the business world who may be entering as well. So it'll be a competitive primary. It'll be up to the voters to determine.
How would you describe the look on his face as you're speaking there? How would you describe that look, Amy? What would you
was it a grimace?
I don't know what it was.
It was a grimace because you can't. They're when they talk to rooms that aren't full of Republicans, they're in the center part. When they talk to a room of Republicans, they go far, far right because they know that they have to appeal to the wannabe.
Was Baker far right?
No. No.
Well, they worked in the Baker administration. You look at their backgrounds.
That's not a transitive property when they refuse to say anything critical of Donald Trump because they know once they do, everyone will circle the wagons and start chewing on him like piranha.
I think that's not necessarily true. I mean, you've heard one of them already say that he did not chose not to vote for president. So.
He didn't vote for. That's the point. He's seeking to lead the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with its 8 million citizens, and 3 times he didn't vote for the leader of the
Well, here's one thing, Amy Carnevale, it seems very abnormal to me that President Trump is now purging from the Justice Department attorneys who represented police officers who were attacked on January 6th. Those people have lost their jobs. I find that bizarre. I mean, what do your fellow Massachusetts Republicans think about that?
Look, I mean, we're focused on politics here in Massachusetts. Yeah. I mean, that's our focus as a party. We can't control what happens in Washington, D.C., but we do want to send Republicans, again, as you characterize them, more normal Republicans, down to Washington, D.C. to be a voice for Massachusetts Republicans, because right now we have one federal official in all of New England representing us, and Susan Collins. And so we do need more voices.
Who votes in lockstep with Donald Trump? It doesn't do any good if you send.
That's not.
Yes, it is.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
That's
why we're going to work hard.
She won a couple of times.
What were you going to say? You had the same face. What are you going to say this time?
It doesn't do any good to send someone down to Washington who refuses to speak. No one running for governor of Massachusetts, other than saying that they didn't vote for president of the United States, has stood up against Donald Trump. And his policies, as Jim articulated earlier, are hurting people here in Massachusetts.
So,
he is actively going after the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, after our economy, after our industries, after our health care, after
Children's Hospital,
after our
if you look at some of our New
He's
York
going after all
Republican
of it, and no one is standing
members,
up to him.
They were critical in saving the state and local
and
income
they
tax
were here
reduction,
30 years ago. The last time you had a
state.
member of Congress as a Republican was 1996. So standing up now is what matters.
You think we should get rid of RFK Jr.?
Yes. Oh,
no,
you were asking
Amy.
her. Sorry.
He has the support of President Trump.
How about your support? Come on. How about your support?
Look, I think he represents
the nut faction in the
of actually more independent voters. I would say kind of kind of that Bernie Sanders kind of independent.
Bernie Sanders just said he should resign in their time.
But hold on. One of the things that seems so insane to me, he wants to prevent children and pregnant women from getting COVID vaccines.
That's not correct.
It is correct.
He would say he's following the science in terms of what the reimbursement should be, but all individuals should have access to the vaccine.
Well, I don't think that's true. People under 65 are not going to be able to get it under RFK Jr., and he doesn't want pregnant women to get it either, even though they pass the protections on to their newborn babies. That's what he wants.
So
that's a good
again,
idea?
I think what they are saying is they're following the science in terms of if you have a pre-existing condition, if you're a healthy adult.
So you have to have asthma before you could get a COVID
Well, you
vaccine.
could still get it. You could still get it.
Who's going to pay for it?
Certainly there's lots of individuals in Massachusetts who are covered by state plans who could get it.
Well, Trump has cut the pants off of Mass Health. Is that okay?
On that note,
I'm sorry, but it's very tough. It's very tough to find the silver lining.
Well,
here.
the good news is, in terms of balance, is we're contemptuous of the legislature. It's all Democrats,
Yeah.
so there is balance
We are.
here.
We're very contemptuous of the legislature. It's the worst legislature ever, and it's
no,
really
that's
bad.
not the worst legislature ever.
Okay, second worst.
Ever.
Second worst.
Amy Carnevale,
we didn't get to home
Steve
rule
Kerrigan.
petitions, but next time.
great
And you
to
do
see
seem
you
very
both.
normal to me, Amy, and you're very nice to come in here to listen to me
So
complain.
you're fairly nice to come in here, too.
That's
Thank
right.
you very much. Steve Kerrigan, Amy Carnevale, great to see you both. Thank you so much.
Okay, we've been speaking or pummeling the heads of the Massachusetts political parties, Amy Carnevale with Mass GOP and Steve Kerrigan with the Mass Dems. Thank you very much for coming in. Coming up after a quick break, Lee Pelton, President and CEO of the Boston Foundation, is here. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Most college students are using generative AI in their day-to-day. Critics warn this could harm critical thinking skills, but others say it has the potential to enhance classroom learning.
I never am intending to replace anyone, but sort of take some of the more rote aspects of teaching and let the AI do that.
I'm Kirk Carapezza. That story later today on GBH's All Things Considered.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Comcast, offering Xfinity with internet and mobile plans to help stay connected at home and on the go. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Internet requires Xfinity Mobile. Actual speeds vary. And The Wilbur. Phil Rosenthal returns to Boston for 2 nights on his Somebody Feed Phil tour, Wednesday, September 10th and Thursday, September 11th. Tickets and information are available at thewilbur.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Jim Browder, Margery Egan, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back at the library tomorrow. Massachusetts Education Secretary Patrick Tutwiler joins us as school begins in our state. Friday, Keith Lockhart will co-host with both of us live at the library. Keith Lockhart celebrating 30 years as the leader of the Boston Pops. 2 special broadcasts from our NEPM affiliate in Springfield, September 15th and 16th. Governor Patrick will join us in the studio. Andrea Campbell, the AG, will join us for an hour in the studio for Ask the AG. Congressman McGovern will zoom in, and a whole bunch more. We're really excited. We're going to go to the Big E while we're out there, too. Joined now at the BPL desk by Lee Pelton. Lee is the president and CEO of the Boston Foundation, a member of GBH's Board of Trustees, previously served as the 12th president of Emerson College. Hello, Lee Pelton.
Hello.
Nice
How are
to
you?
see you. Good.
Thank
to
you
you.
very much
Hope
for coming.
everybody had a great weekend.
We did. It was a very sad weekend, though.
Yes.
You know, summer's over. Back to the can
Such a
ignore.
downer, Margery.
I know. I'm sorry.
He said it was a great weekend. He hoped everybody had a great weekend.
No,
Okay,
it was very
fine.
lovely. Very
Get
lovely.
over it.
Think of it as a new beginning.
New beginning. Okay, thank you very much. So here is the new beginning. So the Trump administration's one big, beautiful bill has kind of done a number on hunger programs in the United States of America. SNAP is one of the biggest ones for, known as SNAP, Supplemental Nutritional
Assistance Program.
Thank you.
Food stamps.
You're trying to do something about that at the Boston Foundation. What are you doing?
Well, where we are trying to do something about it, but let me just give you a lay of the land and to look at this from a broad historic point of view. It is likely that 31,000 adults in the state, or in the area actually, will lose their SNAP benefits. And in addition to that, there are a number of onerous requirements now that will make it more difficult for adults to be eligible. 10,000 10,000 immigrants will lose their SNAP benefits. And why is that important? It's important because I'm reminded of a poem that was written in, I think, 1883 by a young woman. Her name was Emily Lazarus, who wrote a poem. And the lines, I think we all know, they're very memorable. Give me your tired.
Yeah.
Give me your poor. Give me your huddled masses that are yearning for freedom. And that poem is now inscribed in bronze in the Statue of Liberty. That's how we used to be, with open arms, and understanding that our greatness was in fact our great humanity to those who had less. I'm going to tell you a personal story. Not going to mention names or the job, but I have a friend a person with whom I've developed a friendship over the last 14 years. This person has been in this country for 20 years and works. And I know him principally from his workplace. He has a son who's a high school graduate and thinking about going on to college, and a daughter who is now going into high school. He works 2 jobs. His wife works a job. They own a home on which they are paying a mortgage. So he is, from any way that you could imagine, he is the ideal American. Works hard, has a lovely family. And sometime in the near future, he's an immigrant, and sometime in the near future, he will be going into a federal courthouse to see if his immigration status will be reversed. To find out whether or not a person who's worked here for 20 years and raised a family and contributed to taxes and everything else, whether or not when he goes into that courtroom, will he come out in handcuffs and deported on the spot, leaving his family here behind. So this is not making America great again. Our greatness lies in that bronze statue, that bronze plaque in the Statue of Liberty. We have become puny, we've become mean-spirited, we've become thoughtless, we've become cruel under this new administration, which has not even been in office for a full year. So we need to think about this not just as a loss of SNAP benefits, but it's a loss of who we are and what we have always stood for centuries. Go on.
And by the way, we should say, before we move on, that there's a report you put out, the Boston Foundation put out, I assume it's going to be on tbf.org later today, just today, on SNAP benefits and the deprivation from it in this region. And you're spending a decent chunk of money giving to food-related organizations, food pantry organizations, to try to fill part of the hole. Yeah. But obviously, as we've discussed ad nauseum, there's only so much that the philanthropic world, even the best of it, can do with these federal cuts.
We were able to give, from our own coffers, $1 million to the Greater Boston Food Bank, and then another $500,000 to these food pantries. And then the next tranche will be another $900,000. And what's wonderful about Boston is we've been able to catalyze others to participate in this program. And so the total dollars will far exceed what our initial ante was. And that speaks to how wonderful I think Boston is and how wonderful the Boston citizens are and responsive.
You know, we were just talking with Amy Carnevale, who's the head of the GOP here in Massachusetts. She was saying how the Trump administration is focusing on criminal element like robbers, rapists, murderers. But what we seem to be finding is that because it's very difficult to find those people because they have cleverly eluded the law for years, if not longer, it's much easier to nab people as they're going in to the courthouses. Absolutely. Or as they're... So that's what I'm hearing about, are those kinds of efforts of deportation, not the rapists and the assault and batterers with dangerous weapons people, because they're in jail.
I know, it's cruel.
Yeah.
It's unusually cruel. And as I said, it's not making us greater, it's making us more puny, really.
So we're talking to Lee Pelton, head of the Boston Foundation. There's some good news and some not so good news from this wonderful piece of your operation, Boston Indicators, that looks at racial segregation in Boston. Yet another report, and as opposed to economic segregation. Can you tell us what economic segregation is before you tell us what your Boston Indicators concluded?
Well, the economic segregation is the distance between those at the lowest rung of wealth, and I'd say wealth, accumulated assets, if they have accumulated assets, and those who have accumulated assets. We all know, it's almost biblical now that we quote it, that, you know, if you live in Beacon Hill, where I used to live, you had a net worth of $250,000, and if you went, you know, 2 T-stops down to Roxbury, you had a net worth of $8. That's the kind of disparity that we have.
You know, when you left Beacon Hill, that number came down dramatically. I don't know if you're aware. I don't know if you saw that report.
No, I think it went the other way. By the way, it wasn't my house. It was Emerson's house.
Oh, excuse me.
Emerson
Okay.
College.
So what did the Boston Indicators find? I mean, that racial segregation is on the decline, which is a good thing, which sort of surprised me. But economic segregation is on the increase. What does that mean?
Well, it means that while there is more economic segregation, there is less segregation with respect to where people live. And so, and the economic segregation, as you can imagine, is because those at the upper end are making, considerable gains in terms of their wealth and income, and those at the lower are not. But there's more integration in communities, actually, in the middle, and we find that. There's some exceptions, but principally that's what the finding was.
You know, about a year ago, you told us that you were working with the Federal Reserve and a bunch of other foundations to update data that you touched on a second ago, that the Fed put out that was in a Globe series of racism in Boston, I think in 2019, but a bunch of years ago, that has stuck with everybody, that the average wealth, not income, wealth of an average white family in this community is $250,000. The average wealth of a black family, and everybody thought this was a typo, was $8. Dominican family, $0, etc. What's the status of that update?
We're still working on it. and we're still working, but let me be charitable. So the data in the first study was relatively narrow. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the ethnic and racial reach, it was fairly narrow. And so what's happening right now is to broaden that to many more groups, and requires a lot more work, because it's not like just you go out and pick out data point, but you have to have, the questionnaires that people have to answer, and you got to make sure that you get enough questionnaires so that the results are in fact significant. So we're getting closer, but we're not quite there yet.
Didn't you tell us you're going, unlike the original report, which I'm not disparaging because it was eye-opening, you're going into causes in this round as opposed to the prior research. Am I right about that, or am I wrong?
No, I think you're wrong about that. We don't. The document is not meant to be a political statement. It's to be an assay of this issue.
By the way, speaking of that, you wrote a great piece in Commonwealth Beacon about how data, which matters not at all to the President of the United States unless it agrees with him. We know what happens, like from the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics when it disagrees with him. You gave wonderful examples of how data, how critical, hard, unassailable data is to good policy making in our community. People should read it. Can we go back to...
give us an example.
Okay.
Just give us one example of that.
Well, one of the things I wrote about was something I had nothing to do with. It was before I arrived when one of our reports from Boston Indicators, which is, our research center, and really in some respects this research center of this area, discovered, I think, less than 35%, certainly less than 40% of students who had come through the Boston public school system had not less, I think it's 30% or something like that, had taken them more than 7 years to complete, in 7 years had not completed their college degree.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and so my predecessor, genius of a man, Paul Grogan, and Mayor Menino got together, and they said they were going to do something about it, and they did, and created something called Success Boston, which still exists at TBF, and additional tutoring and counseling and those sorts of things.
It helps kids in college too to deal with their financial.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is a big deal.
So, yeah.
So you spoke with us before about Harvard College being under the in the bullseye. President Trump obviously doesn't like Harvard University or Harvard College either, or Harvard Medical School, or anything to do with Harvard apparently. And you spoke about how they kind of need to do what they got to do to kind of survive this onslaught. But some things just seem, we spoke a couple of weeks ago about when Harvard insisted that they, these two professors had this Black Lives Matter sign in their lab, take that down. Now we learn that they want to remove designated spaces for LGBTQ student life, a women's center. They used to be located, I think, in the basement of a lot of dorms, so the kids could go right down there. But now they've moved into a different place. It doesn't seem like they're standing up in the way. Those are not stand-up actions, I guess.
Yeah, but they are standing up, and maybe not to the degree that some of us would all like to see. But I'm going to quote Larry Summers here, that there are two issues here to be considered: principles and pragmatism. And so that's what's happening right now, is a sort of interplay between standing up for principle and also being pragmatic. And I think I know that's what Harvard is doing, and I think it's doing the principle piece very, very well, and it has not received enough credit for that. The government has taken $3 billion of Harvard research dollars away. And you say, well, stand up for that. Well, but those are $3 billion that go to scientists who can develop life-saving drugs, or who can illuminate, all of the big issues that American citizens and others, face. And so, is it standing up to that? Yes, it is. And I think we have to understand that this is not it's not dualistic. It's not a disjunctive. It's not either or. It's both trying to stand on your principles, which I believe Harvard has, but also to be pragmatic. And we will see how all of this.
But the thing is, gestures like moving where kids go that are LGBTQ.
Anticipatory obedience.
Yeah, I know,
is that going to get them at their three?
No. How
does that make it better for them?
Well, it doesn't. That's my point. It doesn't. And let's discount that. To me, that's a non-issue relative to the big issue.
Yeah.
Can we stay on this for a minute? You've been always really camp. We should say, if people haven't heard earlier shows, a couple of days after, what did you win, the President's Award last year or something?
Yeah.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, it's a big deal.
Oh, you mean the President's
At Harvard,
Medal?
yeah.
Right.
I mean, you won a very big award, and a couple of days here later, when we asked you about Harvard, you were very critical. On this issue, you take the pragmatic position.
Let me just say that. No.
I'm not criticizing you.
But I want you to, Harvard's position has changed since
I understand
then.
that. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah. However, a couple of things is I'm looking for an example of where an organization, a law firm, a television network, a university, has cut a deal pragmatically with the Trump administration, where the Trump administration has either honored it or not come back to screw them anyway. Look, let's pick a good example. ABC paid the Trump library, I guess, $16 million for the alleged sin of George Stephanopoulos calling the behavior towards E. Jean Carroll rape, which it would be under Massachusetts law, but is sexual assault only under New York law, or sexual abuse or some such thing. And the reward they got for paying him $16 million is last week he said their license should be suspended. That's one. Two, Elizabeth Warren was with us the other day, who obviously has deep Harvard connection. She's a professor at the law school for a long time. Said some of the things you said, but then said there are lines that can't be crossed around Harvard. And the question we asked her is one I'd ask you. And Ashish Jha was arguing the pragmatics. He's head of the School of Public Health at Brown about the deal that Brown cut. Brown cuts a pragmatic deal. Harvard likely will cut a pragmatic deal. Columbia, pragmatic. We can go down the list. There are dozens of them. What's the state of the institution of higher education when each individual college or university has cut a pragmatic deal for themselves? And what's the state of higher education under Trump? Because there's 3.5 more years of this at minimum when everybody cuts their own deal.
Well, it would be a pitiful state, obviously. And again, I am looking to Harvard to hold true to its principles, to the big things that really matter. But I also anticipate that Harvard will be pragmatic. And the folks at Columbia will say, well, we stand on our principles. We haven't lost those principles, but we made some pragmatic decisions to get over this, sort of reign of terror.
Well, one of their decisions was some outside oversight. I would assume you would agree that Harvard should never agree.
Never, ever do that. No. No, absolutely not.
Do you know more about what's going on in these negotiations than you let on? Because I get the sense that you do. You do, don't you?
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. Can you look me in the eyes and tell me you don't?
No, I can't.
One last thing about this, though. I mean, you were the president of Emerson College. You worked at Dartmouth. You involved with Harvard. So it has kind of surprised me, and I know nothing about this stuff, but that these powerful universities haven't come together as a block. You know what I mean? And maybe that's going on behind the scenes too, because it seems like there's strength in numbers.
Right. Yeah. I would imagine that the presidents and the senior administration at all of the Ivy League schools are in touch with each other, but privately, not publicly. I'm sure that that's happening.
Yeah, but there's no we have a plan and we're going to stick together to it.
No.
Okay.
He's not going to look you in the eyes about that.
Okay, he's not going to
Lee Pelton, thank you very much. Check out all these reports on economic segregation, on SNAP and our region at tbf.org. Good to see you, Lee. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lee. We've been speaking with Lee Pelton, the president and CEO of the Boston Foundation, member of GBH's Board of Trustees. He previously served as the 12th president of Emerson College. Thank you very much, Lee, for coming in. Coming up after this quick break, just enough time left in the hour for Such As It Is, Two More Things segments. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH Live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
A 50% Support for our programs comes from you.
And Newport Mansions, presenting Richard Morris Hunt in a new light, an illuminating exhibition celebrating the Dean of American Architecture, on view through November 2nd at Rosecliff Mansion. Tickets at newportmansions.org. And Showcase Cinemas, Downton Abbey, the grand finale, opens Friday, September 12th at Showcase Cinemas. Ticket information at showcasecinemas.com or on the Showcase Cinemas app.
A 50% import tax on Brazilian coffee took effect last month. Now U.S. roasters are scrambling to buy beans from other countries.
As a company, we're kind of looking at alternatives for coffee from Brazil.
I'm Juana Summers. We visit Colombia and go inside a coffee bean auction on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Welcome back to BPR, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Live at the library tomorrow and Friday. Keith Lockhart co-hosts with both of us on Friday. It's time for two more things. Margery, take it away.
Well, we had an update. We have an update now on Jordon Hudson. Of course, she's the
Jordon
Hudson,
Thank
the 24-year-old girlfriend of Bill Belichick. He's, of course, 49 years older than she is. So apparently, she has filed a trademark application for the phrase, quote, gold digger, unquote, with a stated intention of using it on jewelry and key chains. This is according to the New York Times. And it's kind of surprising, because gold digger is not a flattering term. It used to mean digging for gold, obviously, but it's come to mean a kind of disparaging term for a younger woman who pursues a rich man for his money. So I don't quite know what to make of this, Jim. Some people have said, well, she's just sort of being honest here. She's embracing her real motives here, meaning it's all about the bucks and just coming clean. That that she'll do what she's going to do to get rich, and she's already got $9 million worth of property thanks to Bill Belichick. So I guess that's pretty good. But then you say to yourself, it's a little in the face of Bill Belichick, is it not, to admit that?
Maybe she has a sense of humor.
Well, maybe she has a sense of humor. But you do wonder how much humiliation Bill Belichick can take after his, 48
to 14, but who's counting?
Loss. And so I'm not sure what this is all about, but she wants to be, she's patented gold digger.
In any case, attempting to patent gold digger.
Attempting to patent,
So speaking of Bill Belichick, as I said to John King an hour or so ago, only thing that made me happier than Belichick getting crushed in his first college game was a drunken, lying, election-denying, woman-endangering man about to receive the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That, of course, is Rudy Giuliani. After being hurt in that auto accident in New Hampshire, after allegedly helping a survivor of domestic violence, I don't know about that. Donald Trump responded by announcing that his disbarred former lawyer would get the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So Margery suggested maybe the ceremony can be at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping in Holmesburg, Pennsylvania. That's the one where the black shoe dye dripped down the side of Rudy Giuliani's head. Remember his star turn in Borat, soliciting sex from an actress playing the 15-year-old daughter of Sacha Baron Cohen's character? Here's a little bit of Giuliani's brief cameo where he is ambushed on a hotel bed with both hands in his pants, believing he's about to sleep with a young journalist. Here's Rudy, then Borat.
You can give me your phone number and your address.
Put down your crumb. She's 15. She's too old for you.
Why are you drinking?
She's my daughter. Please, take me instead. Take my anus. Rudy, Trump will be disappointed. You are leaving a hotel without golden shower.
Or the verdict of $148 million in favor of election workers Ruby Freeman and daughter Shay Moss, whose lives were ruined by Giuliani's slander. Here are some of the prior recipients of this honor, Margery. Jose Andres, who has done wonderful things in the world. RFK, not Junior, the real RFK, Andrew Wyeth, etc. And yet, in short, Trump has yet again disgraced himself by his choice in lawyers and his choice in honorees. Good luck, Rudy Giuliani.
We are luckily out of time this hour, but the conversation continues for the sports-adjacent segment, Wives and Girlfriends Addiction. That would be with Trenni Casey. She's up next on Boston Public Radio. I'm Margery Egan. He is Jim Browdy. You're listening to us on 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you're a GBH member, you can access thousands of hours of PBS programming. Passport. If you're already a member, just register online today or become a member and sign up instantly at gbh.org/passport.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Revision Energy, a solar company and a Mitsubishi Electric heating and air conditioning contractor, committed to helping customers lower their environmental impact, offering all-electric heat pump systems from Mitsubishi Electric. RevisionEnergy.com. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Andrew Gunn, Fashioning the World, a retrospective of the Singaporean fashion designer. You can learn more at pem.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR Live from the Boston Public Library. We'll talk with NBC Sports Boston anchor and reporter Trenni Casey about the incredible story of 37-year-old Skyrunner Kilian Jornet, who's gearing up to summit more than 60 of the tallest mountains across the U.S. in just 1 month. Oh, and by the way, did Bill Belichick win his first game as a college coach? Not if Tom Brady wasn't the quarterback.
I'm Margery Egan. With Labor Day behind us, we're officially entering the unofficial start to fall. But that doesn't mean leaving summer totally in the rear view. We'll open phone and text lines to talk about what you're doing to cling to the summer mindset. Those books you still want to read, weekend trips you got planned, the lemonade still left in the pitcher. What's getting you through the denial? That's next. BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A federal judge in California has ruled President Trump's deployment of active duty Marines and National Guard troops to Los Angeles earlier this year was illegal. Steve Futterman reports.
In his ruling, federal judge Charles Breyer accuses Trump of creating a national police force with the president as its chief. That, the judge said, is a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. The act, which was enacted in 1878, greatly limits the military from being involved in any domestic or civilian law enforcement. The judge ordered the remaining troops still deployed not to take part in any arrests, apprehensions, searches, seizures, traffic, and crowd control. However, the order does not go into effect until September 12th to allow the Trump administration a chance to appeal. Around 300 National Guard troops remain in the LA area, while the Marines were withdrawn earlier. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
Congress returns from its August recess this week to once again figure out how to avoid a government shutdown. Democratic Senator Chris Coons is on the Appropriations Committee that, in theory, is supposed to draft legislation for federal spending for the fiscal year that begins October 1st. But he says President Trump and his congressional allies have already been shutting down all parts of government through, as he describes it, unlawful rescissions.
If they continue in those efforts, I won't support keeping the government open September 30 because they're already closing it in ways that are illegal and inappropriate.
Coons on NPR's Morning Edition. The GOP may face division between those who support a stopgap measure and others in the Republican Party who want to see their priorities dominate a full-year bill. Dozens of scientists have issued a joint rebuttal to a recent report by the Department of Energy about climate change. NPR's Julia Simon reports the group found that the report was riddled with errors.
One example of the misrepresentations the climate scientists identified in the DOE report, the report says carbon dioxide benefits agriculture but doesn't account for how heat and droughts actually harm crops. John Cook, senior research fellow at the University of Melbourne, says it's full of misinformation.
The DOE report is basically arguing climate change is no big deal, therefore we shouldn't act.
The DOE report was cited by the Environmental Protection Agency in its recent proposal to roll back regulation of planet-heating climate pollution, like pollutants from cars, coal power plants, and the oil and gas industry. A DOE spokesperson tells NPR the report was reviewed internally. Julia Simon, NPR News.
On Wall Street, all major market indices are down roughly 1% to 1.5%, the Dow falling 436 points. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A Suffolk Superior Court judge has ruled that Shannon O'Brien, the former chair of the state's Cannabis Control Commission, was wrongly fired and is entitled to be reinstated to her post with back pay. Judge Robert Gordon ruled that O'Brien's actions while leading the agency did not constitute gross misconduct and that State Treasurer Deb Goldberg failed to show that O'Brien was unable to discharge the powers and duties of her office as is necessary under the law. Goldberg said she fired O'Brien as the state's top cannabis regulator last year because she would, quote, bully, humiliate, and abuse her colleagues, unquote. Goldberg also accused O'Brien of repeatedly making racially insensitive remarks. 80 years ago today, World War II formally ended when Japan signed its unconditional surrender. 2 weeks earlier, the front page of the Boston Globe had announced in huge block letters, "Peace at last." Writing that Japan and the United States were laying down their arms, the newspaper references the U.S. atomic bombs that killed more than 200,000 civilians in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. The paper said VJ Day would not be proclaimed until after the instruments of surrender were signed. When that finally happened on September 2nd, 1945, it brought an end to the deadliest conflict in human history. Red Sox Guardians play Game 2 of their series at Fenway's tonight. That's a 6:45 start. Taylor Fritz versus Novak Djokovic at the U.S. Open tonight. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Margery Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Going to be back here tomorrow with Education Secretary Patrick Tutwiler. On Friday, Keith Lockhart of the Boston Pops is going to be here co-hosting the show with us at the library. And we have 2 special broadcasts from our NPM affiliate on September 15th and 16th. We're going to be up there at the NEPM studios with Governor Deval Patrick, Congressman Jim McGovern, and the Attorney General Andrea Campbell, and more. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there. Before we introduce Trenni, who's the woman who asked Jamie how long he was locked in the bathroom? Is it you? Okay, that woman deserves an award. The woman sitting behind us, Jamie wrote, came up to me and asked, how long are you locked in the bathroom? And then she proceeds to say it was her favorite recent incident on the show. It's our favorite incident, too, so we're in the same boat. Thank you for bringing it up. In any case, we're joined now, and who love the incident, too, by Trenni Casey. She is an anchor and reporter for NBC Sports Boston and a BPR contributor. How long was he locked in the bathroom? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. How long were you locked in the bathroom?
How long were you locked in the bathroom?
Is it a big bathroom, like luxurious, or is it like a city bathroom?
Single stall.
Oh,
it's like 4 hours.
4 hours.
Allegedly. It's 4 hours. Okay, hi, Trenni. Nice to see you.
Trenni.
How are you? Good.
That sounds terrible.
No.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of terrible, let's play a clip of Bill Belichick reacting to his terrible first game in North Carolina. Here he is.
Yeah, look, they just outplayed us. They outcoached us. I mean, they were just better than we were tonight. That's all there was to it. They controlled both sides of the line of scrimmage. Their skilled players played well, and they did a lot more things right than we did. So, give them credit for being the better team. They certainly deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what happened to Bill?
Did you guys not kind of enjoy this beatdown? Because
you
enjoyed this beatdown.
You didn't hear John King was with us, and John is very careful to not voice an opinion. We ended by saying, am I a bad person? Because I was about as happy when I woke up this morning as I could possibly be. And John King, a man who doesn't voice his opinions, even though he has them, says, let's put it this way. I watched it. I was not unhappy. So a lot of people are really happy. This guy got crushed.
I guess I was a little surprised. Even I've talked about this before. Sean, my husband's a huge Patriots fan, loves Bill Belichick. And he goes, man, he really got his butt kicked, huh? And I think there's just some I think the way part of me was happy to see it happen because he's so arrogant and he thinks he invented the game of football. He went down to North Carolina, brought all of the old guard with him, thought he was just going to waltz into North Carolina and make it, this program and resurrect it from the dead. Like Michael Jordan and Mia Hamm were there last
humiliating.
night. They're like
Lawrence
Taylor, all this pomp and circumstance, and then they get their butts handed to them. The other side of me, though, it's kind of sad. Like if you really think about it, this happens so often, I think, in like public-facing professions where you lose your fastball. Like you're not as good anymore at what you used to be great at.
Why are you looking at me when you're saying that?
I'm not looking directly at you. You still got your fastball, Jim. You still argue.
For that. Thank you. Okay,
still argue with me.
Okay, good.
I'm mostly looking at you because I feel like Marjorie's disinterested. Like we're not talking about Taylor and Travis.
I'm not.
Or Jordan Hudson. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And she's like, you talk to him about the football. I'll talk to you about gold diggers. It's a little sad, right? Like it's this guy, this once, renowned genius of football. In the last, I would say the better part of the last decade has failed in a very public way. And now it used to just be like, okay, well, your teams weren't doing well on the football field, whatever. But now it's also the girlfriend that's 49 years younger and the Instagram posts and the cheesy social media ad campaigns. Like it's all this sad, desperate attempt to stay relevant at 73 years old when what else do you have to prove? Like to me, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
I have two things to say. One, I just read on the Associated Press, when he got home after the game, Jordon had changed the locks, which is really sad. No, but let me tell you something.
I did look to see if she posted anything on social media. Well, she hadn't, and maybe Jamie can check, but as of this morning, there was nothing on her page.
Okay,
the humiliation, the silence of humiliation.
When you touch on this, but in passing, the reason I take happiness out of this, and I've said this to you a million times, is not because of the Brady was a bigger deal than he was, which I believe. It's because he treated people on the way up and when he was there like total garbage. People in your business who are working hard, trying to do their jobs, just like he was trying to do his. He treated them like they were third-class citizens.
And he's still doing it.
And to get his comeuppance. And you know what he did, which is also incredible? You know this, but I don't know if everybody else knows this. Everybody talks about, this, what he's going to bring to UNC and all this money. Maybe he will. Who knows? Not if he keeps losing. Did we discuss this with you last time? Every prior coach has done a weekly radio show.
I was just going to bring this up.
Well, tell the story.
In the past, they do, and this happens at the college level almost everywhere. Like even Nick Saban did a weekly
Alabama,
college radio, not college radio show, but like the radio broadcaster for Alabama football, Nick Saban did a weekly radio show. It happens. I went to Marquette University. Shaka Smart, their head coach, does a weekly radio television appearance. Even Alex Cora does a weekly radio appearance with WEEI.
Yeah.
Mike Vrabel does a weekly radio appearance with WEEI. No, not Bill Belichick. Not Mac Brown did it last year, but Bill Belichick did it one time, and then he said Mike Lombardi will do it going forward. So he won't even do the media obligations anymore. Which, let's be honest, he doesn't say anything anyway, and he'd probably treat those poor people like trash. But it's just the arrogance and this feeling, again, like if you don't want to have the responsibilities that come with being a $10 million a year head coach, then don't be a head coach. Like if you want to just ride off into the sunset, but he may not be able to ride off. Like if for argument's sake, if he is really bad and the team is really bad, what's stopping them from firing him mid-season?
Well,
there's nothing. Like if they get tired of it and it is an absolute bleep show, there's nothing stopping them from getting rid of him.
Okay, she's going to work Jordon into the conversation.
Well, I am going to work Jordon in just a second, but I haven't followed UNC's football program. I know they're big
no one has.
I know they're big in basketball. They do well every year, but not so much football. So are they just really a crummy team that he's going to resurrect from the basement?
From UNC.
I mean,
but in general, they're not. They're big. They're big basketball.
Part of the reason that they brought in Bill Belichick, though, was to sort of revamp the program. It is not a top-tier blue-chip program. It is not up there with LSU, Alabama,
So I'm asking, is this
Clemson.
his fault? Is this his fault?
Well, yeah, it's his fault. Because it'd be one thing if they went out last night and they lost 42-30 or something, right? You lose by 2 touchdowns. They got their behinds handed to them. It was an embarrassment. After they scored their first touchdown, they did nothing offensively. I think they had a quarterback change in the middle of the game, so he couldn't even figure out who his quarterback should be. And it'd be one thing if Bill Belichick had all of this success and, left New England on a high and they had won a Super Bowl or at least made it to the AFC Championship game. But when he left New England, he was fired, had no other opportunities in the NFL, and then was brought into North Carolina to revamp this football program. So why should I think you're the one who chooses the players? He brought in, I think, 70 new players to this roster because there's a lot of turnover in college football. He handpicked, along with Mike Lombardi and his staff, they picked those players for the portal.
So it's his fault.
Okay, speaking of his fault,
but
before
he'll
we go,
never
here's a quiz for you,
never take
Margery.
responsibility for it.
I know you hate quizzes.
I hate quizzes.
This is a good one.
Especially about football.
His last several years as coach of the Patriots were horrible. Who was not his quarterback for those years?
Well, I know that one. That
What
was,
is
of
it?
course, Mr. Brady.
Thank you very much.
He used to have a big face of Mr. Brady right across the street from me for
TB12.
years. It was great. He was looking right at me. It was unbelievable.
Do you know why they had to get rid of that? Because after he had the face work, it didn't look like him anymore. So they had to
tell it was him.
Okay. So, Trenni, I just have one last question about this. We talked about this before. Jordon Hudson, his girlfriend there, trying to trademark the phrase
digger.
gold digger. Now, and to use it on jewelry and keychains. What is Belichick's reaction to that? That's I'm a gold digger, Bill.
That goes back to my original point of it's kind of sad to see this once prominent man.
She's ridiculing him.
I don't know if she's ridiculing him. I don't know if it's tongue in cheek, but I did ask my husband if they'll be able to trademark
he's an
this.
expert on
My
gold
husband's
digging,
a patent he's a patent litigator.
Oh, sorry, okay.
But every once in a while he'll work on trademark cases. So I was like, Sean, they even trademark this? And he said, sure, you can try, but there's a song called Gold Digger.
Yeah.
Kanye West.
Yeah, Kanye West. You can't trademark something that's already been used in popular culture. They're just doing it for everything. Everything she does is for publicity and to it's for people to look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm so cheeky. I'm so funny. Meh. I can't wait till they win no games.
Okay.
I wish nothing but the worst for them.
Well, by the way, if I may, just to prepare people, they're playing one of the worst teams in the United States.
I know.
Next week, they're going to win next week, and all the dopes are going to say he's back, etc.
No, then they're dopes. Because
Margery and I agree.
What is it, Richmond? I think
no, it's Charlotte.
Charlotte. I knew it was they've got Charlotte and Richmond the next 2 weeks, which is like the little sisters of the poor.
The deal Margery and I cut this morning is the two of you are allotted exactly 3 minutes to discuss Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Here's the introduction, a compilation of some of the reaction on social media after the engagement, which everybody on the planet knows about. This is compiled by The Daily on New York Times podcast.
Taylor Swift is engaged. Taylor Swift is engaged. Ah!
Oh, it's huge. The ring is ginormous. This is so exciting.
No, I'm going to throw up.
I'm going to throw up. Okay, you have 3 minutes, Margery. Take it away. Go
Margery,
ahead.
when this happened, did your text messages, were they flooded? Because all my text messages were like, oh my God, it happened. We're grown women, by the way. I do want to point out we are all grown, middle-aged women. So excited about this. Unlike Bill and Jordon, I wish Travis and Taylor nothing but the best. And I am tired of people saying that this is some sort of publicity stunt.
Come on.
First of all, they were both, if anything, he needs her more than she needs him. She doesn't need him at all. They're just happy and in love. And I love that. Did you see the clip an Ohio news reporter called Travis's dad, Ed, and Ed, everyone was like, where did they get engaged? When did it happen? How did it go down? And Ed spilled the beans and told every detail. It was at this garden by Travis's house. They did it after they taped the New Heights podcast. So did you watch?
That's their podcast.
So the podcast is New Heights. It's Jason and Travis Kelce's. It's always been theirs. But they, for the first time ever, had Taylor on, and some very astute viewers noticed that when Taylor said, "my boyfriend," Travis made a face. It was like his own little Easter egg. She's not going to be my girlfriend for much longer. She's about to be my fiance. Isn't that the sweetest?
Yeah, no, I think the thing.
Are you not excited about this?
Well, I'm excited from the angle of Taylor Swift having documented every romance and every breakup for the last 15 years. So now does she document, the marital foibles, or do we hear about?
No, but I wonder. So I am curious. So she has a new album coming out, The Life of a Showgirl. I believe it is going to be be released Friday, October 3rd is the release date on it. So she wrote this album for all intents and purposes. I think she wrote it while she was with Travis. I think, and it's back with like the producer she worked with on Red, Reputation in 1989. I have those out of order. Red, 1989, Reputation. So that's like poppier, dancier, more fun. Like I think it'll be reflective of whatever's going on in her life. Like if you listen to the debut album and even, like Fearless, those are when she's young. And it's like, 15, you hear references to being 15 years old or 17. There's a song 22 on Red. Everything has followed the trajectory of her life. And I think she'll continue to probably draw from her life experiences. Maybe they have children. Maybe they don't have children. Maybe they go through, as you do as you're an aging young adult, as you get into middle age, your parents have health issues. Like there's all these things like that you could write about and express your emotions in just a different way. She's very deep, Margery.
Let me ask you, if Belichick decides to propose to Jordon on his knee and then can't get up,
I was going to say, will he be able to get up?
Exactly. Is that okay? We'll all look forward to that. Can we talk about a story? I think it was in the New York Times that I thought of you, not just because you were going to discuss
the 14ers?
It's the Skyrunner. Yeah, the Skyrunner
Yeah, the Skyrunner,
guy.
yeah.
Oh, my God.
Killian Jornet.
This is unbelievable.
I never heard the term Skyrunner before.
Neither had I.
hadn't either
It just
until I read
means
this.
running at the tops of mountains, like in the sky. If people know, tell 30 seconds what you just did a few months ago if people missed that show. And then talk about Killian Jornet.
So I was a segment runner for and the nonprofit raises money by having 21 runners run across America. So we started in Santa Monica, California. We finished in New York City, and each segment runner had anywhere between 134, 35, and 220 miles to run. So I ran 161 miles across the state of Wisconsin, from Platteville, Wisconsin to Milwaukee, and raised just under $72,000.
In memory of your late aunt.
In memory of my late aunt.
That's great.
So
what's this
it's an ultra marathon.
That was just spectacular. Killian Jornet, tell us what he does.
Yeah, I'm not as cool as Killian in any way, shape, or form. He is this very accomplished ultra-marathon runner. He recently, I think, he did the Western States and finished third after not doing it for like 10 years or something. He runs the Mont Blanc ultra marathon, but he loves to run at high altitudes. He's Spanish. He was born and raised in the Pyrenees. So he is going to run and cycle through all the 14ers in the western United States. So I believe there's 60.
That means more than 14,000 feet?
So they're more than 14,000 feet. It's a big thing to do if you live in Colorado. It's a big thing to just walk, hike, and summit the 14ers. He is not just going to do one every so often. He is going to do them all in order, and he's going to hike, run, summit all the 14,000-foot peaks in Colorado, Washington, California.
Yeah, that's right.
I think all the 14s are in there.
Yep.
And then in between, rather than like get in a car and drive to the next one, he is going to cycle. So when he gets back down, to 7,000 feet or wherever you start from, he is then going to hop on his bike and ride his bike to the next starting point. So it's going to be a running, climbing, cycling event that he's going to start in September. The timing for me was interesting that he's going to do it in September, which I suppose... I'm sure he looked at the weather. I guess that's maybe when you'll have optimal weather.
What do you think? Less snow on the peaks?
But I don't know. I do wonder as you get later into September, do you run the risk of it snowing, like say at Mount Rainier or something? Do you get like a weird flash? Like I also worry you don't have a lot of daylight. Like your daylight has shrunk considerably by the time you get to the end of September. So I don't know how long it's going to take him, but he's going to try to do it all within a month. Am I right on that? 60?
Yeah.
Yes.
60.
You know what Margery missed in the story, and I hope I didn't make it up.
No, it's right here.
Okay.
I missed it. It was my mistake.
Well, go ahead, tell.
That his mother left him and his sister in a forest when they were little kids
to like fend for themselves and figure it out
their way home. And then in the next graph, it talks about how he's not a big guy. He's 5'7", 128 pounds, but he tests his physical limits through something called deprivation art. He spent 4 days going about his life, hiking 2 to 4 hours in the morning, another hour in the afternoon, so like 5 hours a day, without eating anything for 4 days until he finally collapsed on his fifth day. So this guy's unusual.
I think it also just speaks to When I was training for my tiny little thing that I did across
It's not a
Wisconsin,
tiny little thing.
I was reading a lot of books about ultra marathon runners and ultra athletes. And it used to be this like sort of niche thing that only the really sort of crunchy granola type runners did. Now, ultra running and ultra endurance sports have become big business. Like, you used to be able to sign up for an ultra marathon, no problem. It's similar to marathons, running 26.2 miles. Like, now it's so hard to get into the big races because so many people apply, so many people want to run. That's now happening in the ultra community. Like the Western States, which is one of the most prestigious ultra running events in the world. There's a waiting list. Like, you have to
Really?
like, if you want to get into Badwater, which is another very prestigious.
Ultra marathons are how long?
Depends. Ultra marathon is anything over 26.2 miles. So the most common distances are 50K, 50 miles, 100K, 100 miles.
Oh my God.
But like Western States is 100 miles. Badwater, I think, is 136 miles through Death Valley.
So maybe I won't do it.
So yeah, it's
I ain't saying it. What are you laughing about? Jamie did some, whatever you call it, research. It's 42 degrees today on the top of Mount Rainier, 49 degrees at the top of Mount Washington, which is pretty warm for New Hampshire. I mean, that part of New Hampshire.
But that's, but you think about it today, now what will it be like? I mean, I'm guessing Rainier will be the last place. So I've climbed Mount Rainier. I mean, so there's snow on Mount Rainier year round. Yeah, back when I was like real athletic, I climbed Mount Rainier. But it's amazing. But like the altitude does, affects you more than you think.
He climbed Everest twice in a week without any air, without any whatever.
Oxygen.
You know,
This guy's unbelievable.
Can we go from this unbelievable guy
And his wife does it too. And
to
he's got
two
3 little
big
kids.
a-holes doing similar sorts of things? Did either of you guys read the story about Pete Hegseth and RFK Jr.?
Oh, yeah.
Two peas in a pod.
Okay, the pull-ups
These guys
and stuff?
did this thing. They did this challenge where they do, and this is not a typo, they're both quite fit, even though they're missing some other things.
Brains.
They did 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in 10 minutes.
Okay, but did you watch Pete Hegseth's pull-ups?
Oh, he doesn't go the whole way?
No, he does, and he like uses his legs to like. That's not how like you're supposed to. When you do a pull-up, like the correct way to do a pull-up is you don't swing your legs for the momentum to like get you up. Like the video is unbelievable. Like you're supposed to just hang and pull, hang and pull. It should be core and upper body strength. He's doing them like I would try to do them because I can't do it because I'm not strong enough to do a pull-up. Like good for you that you can use your momentum to whip yourself, over like a chin-up bar. But I'm not impressed by it.
By the way, Zoe had a great
Although he
note
could do
which she
anything and I wouldn't
erased.
be impressed by it
Zoe
because he's a
said
dodo.
She's been training for a year to do one pull-up.
They are really hard.
They're really hard.
Okay, so let me just say this, which is not surprising. The story that was either in the Washington Post or the New York Times about this challenge, two interesting things. If you watch the video, there is an incredibly muscle-bound young military member, I don't know what force he's in, who did the 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yeah, and he probably did them all the right way.
And so he looked like he did. And secondly, the point of the story, which is not shocking considering RFK Jr. is involved, the point is it's not healthy. And it's one thing if you're perfectly fit, but making this recommendation that people take the Bobby and Pete challenge is not a good idea, but not surprising considering it came from
Especially because
RFK.
most people, like, I worked with a trainer to learn how to do a proper push-up. Like, you don't realize how often you're doing them improperly.
You got to be planked, right?
You have to be planked, but you have to keep, like, your core tight, but your arms also shouldn't be too far out or too far in or too, like, there's, like, all this positioning that you should do to do them properly so that you don't end up having, like, shoulder or back or, like, low back, issues.
Didn't we have either a sit-up or a push-up challenge at our old radio station like 20 years ago?
We did.
I won.
You didn't.
Okay, now here's Jamie. I did the monkey bars at my kid's school over the weekend. I'm still sore.
Yeah. Listen
I mean,
to this
it is
texter.
incredible.
Listen to this texter. I'm building up steam to stop watching TV in my bed and head to the couch where I will watch TV there. These guys are an inspiration, he says.
No, but by the way, don't let the feats of this Journey guy to be undone because of the pathetic nature of these two
RFK
losers.
Jr., I think, is taking some sort of supplements, I would guess.
Oh, I mean,
He's
goodness
72
only
years
knows
old.
what these two guys think are healthy. You know, it's the same way I feel about people who refuse to take the COVID vaccine, but now they're like, I need to lose 5 pounds. Give me a GLP-1, and you'll be like, no idea what's going to happen to you.
That's a great point.
Like, so you'll put this in, you have no idea what it's going to do to your body in the long term, and you need to lose like 5 or 10. I mean, there are real, obviously, very true scientific reasons to use them, but you know, vanity users are like, no, I will not take the COVID vaccine. I will not do that. And they're like, give me 5 pounds less. Literally inject it into my veins.
Every time I see the GLP-1 numbers, I'm stunned by how high they are. Did you hear the report? It's not just this weekend, but I heard one this weekend. Tons of restaurants in this country are creating menus specifically for GLP-1 users, because instead of 3 meatballs in an appetizer, they only eat 1 meatball. The point is, it's huge.
I do have a friend who's using it for true medical reasons. She has about 100 pounds to lose, and she's struggled. She's tried everything. I mean, she works out.
I think that's true of lots of people.
And
they can't lose weight.
They can't. And so, but you know, I work with a nutritionist, and honestly, I'm sort of a vain person. So I asked her. I said, you know, ever since I've hit my mid-40s, I have like this 10 pounds that I just kind of don't go anywhere really. I said, what do you think about a GLP-1? And she said, absolutely not. She said, because what people don't realize, especially women in middle age, is you're not losing fat, you're losing fat and a lot of muscle. When you lose muscle, she said, we are going to see the long-term not benefit, what is the long-term ramifications, effects of it, is bone density loss. And if you don't have muscle to protect your bone and you break a bone after 60, do you know that one of the leading causes of death in people over 65 is breaking a bone?
I know that.
And so it's like it's seen as this miracle drug, but we don't know the long-term ramifications of it yet.
Okay.
I'm also, you can catch me on doctor shows too, because I'm a doctor.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
I feel like we live in this society where like these guys are doing these fake pull-ups and everyone's like, I'm going to do it too. Like just because other people do it doesn't mean you have to.
Somebody said they were a CrossFit pull-up. Is that correct?
I don't know. That's another one. My chiropractor always says the people she sees the most often are CrossFitters, now high rocks, and runners.
Well, she won't be seeing me. So nice to see you, Trenni Casey. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking with Trenni Casey, anchor reporter for NBC Sports Boston and a BPR contributor. Trenni, thank you so much. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to open the phone and text lines with school and work back underway after the summer months. How are you holding on to that summer feeling? Can you hold on to that summer feeling? Maybe trying to finish that one book you told yourself you'd read between June and September, or sneaking in one last vacation weekend away. Are you still trying to keep your toes and head in the sand just a little bit longer? He's Jim Browdy. I'm Margery, and you're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
As kids head back to school, there's a lot of noise about vaccines amid turmoil at the CDC. I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, we'll separate fact from fiction with an infectious disease expert. And a 50% import tax on Brazilian coffee kicked in last month. Now, U.S. roasters are scrambling to buy beans from other countries. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering 2 to 3 day courses and executive certificates for professionals seeking cutting-edge business insights on innovation, cybersecurity, AI, and more. Info at executive.mit.edu. And Buzzards Bay Coalition. You can choose your own coastal biking adventure on October 5th with 41, 77, and 100-mile options. SaveBuzzardsBay.org/ride. This message funded by the Southeastern Mass Visitors Bureau.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Margery Egan, Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here tomorrow with Education Secretary from Massachusetts, Patrick Duttweiler. Obviously, as schools start. On Friday, we've said Keith Lockhart. We're thrilled about this. He's going to co-host with both of us at the library, and special broadcast coming up in September. Well, this is September, Jim. September 15th and 16th, we'll be broadcasting live from our Springfield affiliate out there at NEPM. Governor Patrick will join us in the studio, as will the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell. Congressman McGovern will zoom in, and tons of others. So summer may be over according to some meteorological clock, and the reality is it is, but it lives on in our hearts and minds. It can continue as long as we want it to, correct? I say yes. Margery, a negative nabob of something, says no. The lines are open at 877-301-8970. Call or text. How are you keeping summer alive in this week of school buses, arguments over whether to put a coat or a jacket on in the morning? And is summer a state of mind for you? Maybe you keep it with you through the rain and snow of the changing seasons. Tell us how. Books you promised yourself you'd read by Labor Day. How are you keeping glorious summer alive? Or are you? The number is 877-301-8970. I'll give you some tips in a second.
Okay.
You were very negative this morning.
I was very
saying
negative.
It's over. Explain why.
Because we are going to stay warmer longer this fall because of climate change. So your flowers may last through September, maybe even through October.
Yeah.
But, you know, most people take their vacations in the summer. Your vacations are over for probably a long time to come, maybe till Christmas or something like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to the beach as much anymore because somebody just texted, though, to say that Jessica and Dedham said our beautiful beaches the next couple of weeks for finally free parking, which is a good point. You can go get free parking at the beach. You can take your dogs to the beach, and that's an advantage in a lot of places. But, you know, you're going to do all these things over the summer. All the friends you're going to see, you didn't have time to see. The books you're going to read, you didn't have time to read. All the summer plans are sort of done, and it goes so fast, I guess. It seems like it's 4th of July and then it's Labor Day, and it's just a blink and it's gone.
Well, that's a rotten attitude.
It's a rotten attitude.
877-301.
I think a lot of people get depressed at the end of summer.
8970. Well, that's because they don't do things that keep summer alive. I'll tell you some of the things I'm doing. Tomorrow, to aggravate you, I'm going to wear shorts and a T-shirt to work. One, it keeps you in the spirit, and you don't like it. Is that correct?
Well, I think your short stays behind you, Jim.
2, no, they're not. Actually, they're ahead of me. They're tomorrow. 2, I'm going to continue playing pickleball into the fall, not just in the summer. Those books you said, all of us fell behind. You can still read one of those beach kind of books.
You can.
And you know what I'm doing on Saturday?
What are you doing?
Actually going to invite you. I'm selling lemonade outside my house in Inman Square for $25 a cup.
Okay.
Okay, 877-301-8970. How are you dealing with the end of summer? And in a moment of seriousness, are you not trying to do some things like going to a beach that's not as crowded, not as expensive as it once was? What are you doing to try to keep it alive? Summer to me is the most glorious time of year, and there is the only thing more depressing than the end of summer to me, I have to be honest, is when the clocks change in early November.
Yeah, that's bad.
The end of daylight saving for the year, which obviously should be made permanent. So we want to know which side you're on.
There's always a dispute about this. I'm already getting texts saying that summer's too hot, late August or October is the best time of the year. Some people do love the fall. That's their favorite season. But the problem with the fall is it means winter is coming.
Good point.
Now, one thing now, our winters are not like they used to be for the most part. You never know. We might get a really bad one this year because they're extremes, but we really haven't had much snow in the last few years, which has been really bad because kids can't go sledding. But some people just love the fall. I don't, because it means winter's coming. Some people love the spring because it means summer is coming. That's where I am. I love the spring because it means I have the whole summer ahead of me to do all these things, which I never end up doing.
Okay, so wait a second. You and your sister inherited your parents' house.
Yep.
It's on a lake.
It is.
On the Cape. What better way? You going this weekend to the lake?
I am.
Okay. So obviously you are
I have to go down there.
summer.
I have to go down there for stuff I got to do down there. But
yeah,
it's not
like
gonna
sit on the lake.
It's not going to be hot. It's not going to be sunny. Well, it may be sunny, but it's not going to be hot. It's sitting on the beach when it's hot. I love going to the beach and sitting on the beach when it's hot.
Well, it's not going to be hot. So you do what you can instead of having a negative attitude is what I'm basically saying. Do things that are summer-like that bring you joy. That's what I would say.
Lots of people are with me. The end of summer is really hard because it goes so fast, it's over so quickly, and the things you thought you were going to get to do or were going to do, you didn't do. And
what was the most important thing you wanted to do this summer that you didn't do that you can't now do in September? What is it?
Well, this sounds ridiculous, I know. I didn't get to the beach enough.
Oh.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry, where are you going again this weekend?
Well, I'm going to the Cape again this
You're
weekend.
going to the Cape?
But it's not going to be the same because the beach.
No.
Well, actually, as Jessica from Denver just pointed out,
What'd she say?
You can park at the beach much more easily now. You don't have to pay in a lot of places. You can take your dog to the beach, and that's great. You can show up at beaches that you couldn't show up in the summer, and that's great. So if it's hot and sunny this weekend, you'll be happy. I'll be happy. But generally speaking, it starts to get cool, and it's not the same when you're sitting on the beach and it's 60 degrees out it is when you're sitting on the beach and it's 80 degrees.
If you share the negativity of Margery, try to shed it before you call us. Let's hope that Richard from Rhode Island is a more positive kind of person. Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys doing today?
Well, fine, Margery's horrible. I'm great. Go ahead.
Well, I'm keeping the summer alive right now by sunbathing in my backyard in a bikini.
Oh, my God. Can you send us a photo?
I don't have anybody to take one.
Oh, Richard.
Yeah.
Now, you're in a great state for the summer, though. Rhode Island is like one big beach. So do you have a favorite beach you go to in Rhode Island in the summertime?
I'm not much of a beach guy, but if I had to choose one, it would probably be East Matunic or Matunic.
Okay.
Do you know those?
I've never been there, but I've heard of them. Yeah, Rhode Island has wonderful beaches. I mean, it's like when you drive around Rhode Island, you can almost always see well, that's not true, but you can oftentimes see the water from wherever you're driving.
Now, Richard, I don't want to get personal, but since you brought it up, is this like a banana hammock we're talking about? What are you wearing?
What do you mean?
I mean, what kind of bikini are you wearing? I think you know exactly what I mean.
Do you have a top?
No. The manufacturer is called Fresh Water.
Okay, that's a dead giveaway. Thank you, Richard. Enjoy the bikini in the backyard. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Read what Mike in North Carolina said.
Mike in North Carolina says, 2 final things I'll be doing this summer. I'm taking a trip to Grossinger's in the Catskills with Harriet Heinemann. That, of course, is Jim's shot putter girlfriend. In all seriousness, I'm visiting BPR, the BPL from North Carolina. How can I get tickets?
Unfortunately, we're sold out. 877-301.
You do not need any tickets.
8970 is the number. And this is a very simple exercise. We're trying to help people, including ourselves, who are depressed because, I mean, forget the state of the world. That's bad enough. But summer is over. Not technically, but it is over in a de facto way. How do you keep it going? Margery says it's impossible. I say it's not.
Here's the you know what the other thing is too that is kind of sad is that when you're on vacation you can kind of not read as much about the depressing news of the world, and now you're back having to read everything about the depressing news of the world. We have a texter, an anonymous texter, a Republican texter, who says he's going to have his kids deported by ICE so he can keep having summer.
That's a beautiful sentiment. Dan in Dorchester, you are next on BPR with Jim Browdy. That's me and Margery Egan. Hi.
Hey, guys. So I feel like the problem isn't the end of summer because fall in New England is really great. We still have a warm enough spring, fall, we get the leaf changing. But the problem is that just means in 3 months it's going to snow and be 0 degrees.
Exactly.
That is the problem.
Exactly. Although it is warming up, unfortunately. I mean, not that I like to be snowed in and covered with ice all the time, but it's nice to have some snow for the kids, right? So they can go sledding. And these last couple of years, it's been pretty slim pickings on the sledding front.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
Dan, that's an excellent point, unfortunately. Thank you very much for the call. By the way, Mike from North Carolina is actually here in the audience, right there in the sunglasses. How are you, Mike?
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
By the way, I just texted you Harriet Heinemann's number. Good luck with that, okay? 877-301-8970 is the
I mean, you just
number.
got back from vacation.
I did.
We were really extravagant this summer. We had 2 weeks in a row. It was pretty nice to have 2 weeks in a row, wasn't it? Were
yeah,
you
and
sad
by the way, who was the person? Who was the person who couldn't think she could do 2 weeks? Who was convinced by her coach? You never take 2 weeks in a row. And I said to you, be bold.
I never
Stand up for
took 2 weeks
yourself.
in a row because you were telling me we couldn't do that.
Well, I did tell you that. That's true. Even though I was taking 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, and I insisted that this year I was going to take 2 weeks in a row. And
How
by
great
the way,
is that, by the way?
Well, I'll tell you something. I have learned.
What is it?
That if you can do it, because 1 week is not enough, right? You just get through 5 days. You're anticipating you have to go back to work. 2 weeks gives you a real...
By the way, we showed up last week. I don't know if you were here for that.
We were here, but we had to take 2 weeks vacation this year, and it was wonderful.
By the way, you know what the problem is? None of our listeners knew we were gone. That is a real problem. Nancy, yes, they did, of course. By the way, don't you love it when a friend of yours calls and comments on the best of? Why are you still talking about X with Y? not realizing
I
it's
know.
a best of from a prior
Or they
thing.
call and tell me how good the people were that were filling in for us, Jim.
Yeah, I hate that.
I hate that, too.
I hang up on those people.
Nancy from Tewksbury, what
Nancy
do you think,
in
Nancy?
Tewksbury. Hi, Nancy. What's your deal?
Hi. We are planning a trip. We started last fall.
Oh.
Planning this. We're bringing 2 of our grandchildren in D.C.
Oh,
wow. That's very patriotic of you, Nancy.
It is very patriotic, but it's a little scary right now.
Do you know that tourism is down in Washington for the very reason you just referenced? Do you know that, Nancy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there probably won't be crowds, which will be good.
Well, that actually is a decent point. We wish that's
It
great
is a
that you're
weird
doing
thing,
that,
though.
Nancy. Thanks.
I remember, this is about 10 years ago now,
What was
but I
it?
remember going to, one of my kids did the junior year abroad thing, and we went to visit her in Paris, and I was stunned to see outside synagogues in Paris because of anti-Semitism and attacks on synagogues there. They had armed police officers, and it was really weird to see someone with a long gun standing in front of a place of
Well, that
worship.
was after
the cartoonist thing
yeah.
and the Islamic attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I get why they were there.
But just, yeah.
But it's a very disconcerting thing, and I don't know how it would feel to walk around to see the big sites in Washington, D.C. with armed National Guardsmen there, and they have armored tanks, too. I mean, it's not, I don't know, it would feel very odd to me.
By the way, I forgot, and I want to do a shout out because I'm sure he's listening. Ted or Tom from Lynn, Cole was our second caller today, who was saying that what Trump is doing is not tyranny, and he was saying how great it was that ICE and maybe the National Guard would come to Boston. And then he hung up when I asked him a question. You're invited anytime tomorrow, first segment, to call back and explain to us how great the Trump administration is for the people in New England. Barb in Rhode Island, you are next on BPR. Hi.
Hi, I'm loving it now.
Why is that?
Because I live at the beach and now there's no beach traffic, so I can get there.
Well, that is
true. That is true. Yeah, in the summertime it can be really tough. I remember going to a beach, Horseneck Beach, that I grew up on. It was between Fall River and Bedford. It used to be a really nice beach that shrunk. It's kind of sad. It's very rocky. But you're sitting in line outside the beach for like a half an hour as the traffic, one person after another gets in. That's really... It's a good reason for riding a bike to the beach.
Barb, does the crowd? I know they diminish, but do they really disappear post Labor Day?
Cranes Beach and places up the North Shore.
No, but wait. In all fairness, we've had Katie Theoharides on, who's head of the trustees of reservation. They now have this ticketing system where you can do it online, and you don't have to wait all day. It's actually great. Barb, are the beaches really empty or just emptier?
Emptier, and they need to be emptier because there's hardly any beach at high tide.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Where are you? What beach?
Narragansett.
Oh, Narragansett. Is Narragansett Beach shrinking? Are you in the town of Narragansett or the beach in Narragansett?
What, our home address? What are you doing
No,
here?
I'm just curious what beach it is that's shrinking. Is it the town beach in Narragansett you're talking about?
The town beach is shrinking.
Oh.
I tried to go and walk at low tide, and there was only about 20 feet of wet sand between the beach and the retaining wall at the Dunes Club.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's happening all over the place. It's interesting. It's not happening evenly on Cape Cod, though. It's happening where you go, down there by the National
Outer
Seashore,
Cape, yeah.
Truro, Eastham, those places. The other side of the Cape, the bay side of the Cape, is not nearly as bad. But that's too bad, Barb, because that's a beautiful beach down there in Narragansett. That's a beautiful place, Narragansett.
Barb,
So,
thank for the call.
Thank you for the call.
Here's one of our coworkers had a great idea, and this is also affordable and easy to do. Have an ice cream cone every day. Are you an ice cream? Oh, you like Four Seas?
Four Seas in Centerville. Yeah, I was there in Centerville having ice cream.
So did you eat a lot of ice cream?
I did.
So if you had an ice cream cone this afternoon, would it not put you back?
It's not from the Four Seas.
Okay, fine. I mean, you go
They have real whipped cream.
They do?
Yeah, they do.
They have real whipped cream?
Real whipped cream makes all the difference. It's really pretty exciting.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, but they get sold and they're not open as many long hours as they used to be. That's upsetting too.
That's very upsetting.
Yesterday they weren't open until 1 o'clock. I was very upset.
What do you mean? They were closed at 1 o'clock?
They were not opening until 1 o'clock. You go over there for a little brunch. You have a little ice cream sundae for breakfast. Peggy in Texas.
Hello, Peggy.
Oh, what do you think?
Hey.
Hi, Jim and Margery.
Hi.
I'm actually in Gloucester but I live in Texas, and I'm lying to my husband so that I don't have to go back to Texas and keep the summer going.
So wait a minute. In Gloucester today, I bet it's pretty nice, if a little cool. But what is summer like in Texas, Peggy?
It's awful. It's awful. Well, it's pretty awful all year long.
I was just going to say,
it's really awful in the summer.
Because of the heat.
It's pretty bad.
No, because of the governor.
Yeah. And a couple of other things like the governor.
So what do people do in places like Texas? Because I know there were a couple of times early in the summer, in July, when it was so hot here, you really couldn't go out and sit on your back porch or your front porch, whatever kind of outside your backyard, whatever it was.
Whatever it was.
Because it was so hot. Mm-hmm. So what do you do in the summer with that heat, Peggy? Just stay in the house?
So I'm from New England originally, so you do what you do in the sub-zero weather here. You're just stuck in the house all day.
Boy, that would be miserable. And that's when school's out, right? So obviously, school's out in the summertime in Texas, right?
100%. You know what the worst thing is? You can't even walk the dog because the pavement never cools down.
God.
Did you say in the beginning why you're there again? Did I miss that? Why are you there?
So I'm there for my husband's job, and my deal was for him to keep working is we got a place in Gloucester so that I didn't have to be in Texas all the time. And now I keep making up reasons for why I need to stay and not go back right now.
I like that.
Well, Gloucester's...
I'm open to any suggestions you have.
We'll come up with them. We'll text you.
Gloucester's a great place.
Thanks.
A lot of beautiful beaches up in Gloucester.
There are. That is a good point.
And it's not that crowded in Gloucester either. It's funny. People don't often make it... Well, maybe they're not very crowded in Gloucester.
It's actually quite crowded.
In Gloucester?
It's often very hard to park. Yeah,
you think so?
I know so. Yes,
that's where you're supposed to ride your bike to the beach, Jim.
Yeah, I'll be doing that really soon. Thank you so much. By the way, you mentioned Four Seas ice cream.
Yep.
Jamie made a very good point, not to be confused with Four Seas landscaping.
No.
Where the next Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, that'd be Rudy Giuliani, did that brilliant performance on behalf of his candidate, Donald Trump.
Who claimed that he stopped to help a domestic violence person, which seems weird that you would be a domestic violence person on the side of the road. And did you flag him down? I mean, how did this come about?
The person said, "Hi, I am a domestic." I mean, no one believes that except his people.
And then he went in the other direction, which is odd.
I know. He has a drinking problem, as I think we know.
Yeah. Okay, Jen from Stowe. What do you think, Jen?
By the way, can we just first, Jen, before I know we're ending on a lighter note. This is a guy who's an election denier.
Right.
Who destroyed intentionally the lives of these two dedicated, patriotic women.
Correct.
They did get a judgment. Who tries to have sex in the Borat film with a 15-year-old, and he didn't know she was an actress. She was pretending she was. How long can we go down the list? This guy is getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I mean, really?
It's very upsetting. A texter just says it's going to be 81 degrees on the Cape this summer. I'm checking my weather reports.
No, he didn't say the Cape. They said this. They didn't say the Cape. They said 81 degrees Friday and Saturday.
Well, it's going to be 82 and 84 in Boston. I'm
she did
what
say
it says for Centerville right now.
Okay, Margery, this is like your personal work on company time. You know what I mean?
It says 79 and 73 on my thing.
That's great.
You know what we're thinking? We're thinking that all the firings that if anybody's noticed besides me that the weather reports are not as accurate they usually are.
I think that's true.
I think because they fired so many people that used to be with the weather service.
Why don't you, in the rest of the show, even though we're live on the air, call your sisters. You should get a dinner reservation for the two of you this weekend, maybe outside.
Okay. Jen and Stowe, thank you for
calling.
calling.
Jen.
Hi. First of all, I just want to mention Giuliani also dumped his wife on live television. I think that also needs to always be mentioned.
Wait, didn't she have
Which
cancer?
wife?
What, did he? Oh no, that was Newt Gingrich. I'm sorry.
I lived in New York. I lived in New York at the time, and yes, it was. He didn't know.
That was the first.
And she found out on the television.
She was the blonde newscaster that he dumped for the second one. I forget the second one's name. He's dumped her now too, or she dumped him, one way or the other.
No, it's great. Presidential Medal of Freedom if there ever was one.
He kicked him out of Gracie Mansion. Yeah, it was the whole thing.
That's right. They kicked him out of Gracie Mansion.
Hi, Jen.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Hi. So I live in Stowe, Massachusetts, and so I want the summer to last. I'm eating a lot of tomatoes to do that because it's my first year in Stowe, and it's about to be apple season.
Oh.
And I live down the street from Honey Pot, and apparently I'm not going to be able to leave my driveway for like 2 months.
Oh, because apple seed is a big deal. How do you feel about apple cider donuts, Jen?
Oh, I like them, but they're not always good.
Well, of course.
And I can't. Again, I live in Stowe, so I can't we just got a Dunkin' Donuts, so I really can't
Sorry to hear that.
turn on Dunkin'. No, it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, let me just say, a good apple cider donut, I'm not a big sweets person, is as good as it gets. So give it a try, Jen. It's on me. Jordon, thank you so much for your call. Do you go apple picking? You an apple picking kind of person?
I used to go when my kids were little, and then we'd all get stung by bees.
Yeah, and then so you stopped doing it?
Yeah. Well, it was one of the downsides of the apple picking experience.
We're getting stung by bees?
It was, yeah. It was, especially if it's warm. A lot of people complain about the humidity in the summertime. And
who does not complain about the humidity?
You don't.
The biggest complainer you've ever known does not complain about the humidity.
Yeah.
What does that say to you?
I don't know.
I don't know
it could be a
what it says
heritage
either.
kind of thing. I like the humidity as well, and I shouldn't. It says that everyone loves the summer so much, and then they complain about the heat. You can keep summer. I love fall, beautiful weather, fall fashion, crisp air of winter. Nothing more beautiful than freshly fallen snow. By the way, did you read? You were on vacation.
I was.
Did you read the story about the ticks in Martha's Vineyard?
No, you told me about it.
Oh
What's the
my
deal
God.
with that?
That was absolutely horrible. Everybody knows about deer ticks and Lyme disease, but they have these other ticks in Martha's Vineyard, which if you get bitten by one of these ticks, you may never be able to eat dairy or meat.
Is that true, or you made that
forever.
up?
You might get better to be able to eat dairy or meat in 6 months to a year, but it sounds really, really bad. I would not be going to Martha's Vineyard anytime soon.
Now, let me ask you one other thing. Jamie is being fairly critical of me, and I don't like it. He says, when I mentioned that I like hot weather and I like the humidity, he says, are you kidding me? In capital letters, like Trump. When the temperature here at the library goes up 2 degrees, it's like, is it hot in here? It's like a sauna in here. I'm melting. It's so hot. Can I get one of those fans?
Yeah.
Can you call David Leonard, he's the president of the library, and find out what the deal is? That's actually fairly accurate.
Yeah, you do usually have a fan. Where's your fan today, Jim? Oh, he's got it behind the counter. Okay, he's got
Thank
the
you very
fan right
much.
there behind the counter
Right
just
here.
in case. Rob from Providence, what do you think, Rob?
You have 30 seconds, Rob.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, first time, long time.
Thank you.
Yep. I tried to call once before when you had Ethan Hawke on, and I want to give a Blaze Foley song recommendation.
What?
Which is the Moonlight song. But on the current topic, Jonathan Richman's That Summer Feeling. It is on exactly this topic. It's a great song.
I think we're having Jonathan Richman on. He's not? He is?
Okay,
He's
what's
not.
that again?
We almost
Jonathan
had Jonathan
Richman, Best
on.
Summer Feeling?
Oh, we have a clip of it.
Clip?
Here it is.
Here it is.
Oh, my God.
I don't know.
That was brutal. No, that's Rob. If you love it, I'm with you. I understand that.
Okay.
Sorry we're out of time. Make another first call. That'll be your second call in the future. That was
We'll
really
listen to
some...
Moonlight. That might be better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, look who's here.
Yacht Rock.
Another one.
We should
He's been
play
off.
Yacht Rock songs.
Okay, fine. This guy was off like a month, and he's back. Jared Bowen. Jared, where you been? Where you been?
I was away.
Oh, shoot.
You were the one who was gone almost all of August.
I was gone a lot. I had a lot of
right.
things to do. Thank you.
Jared was horseback riding.
He was?
He's a great equestrian.
He's an equestrian. That's
yes,
correct.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Now, are
What's
you
on the show,
keeping
Jared?
summer? No, forget that. Are you keeping summer going, or are you giving up?
Well, I'm one of those people who kind of like fall because I like the shows that are coming our way, the museum exhibitions.
Oh,
It's back to school, but with all the fun things.
Did you like that Jonathan Richman song?
I didn't hear it.
Okay, fine. Now, what are you doing on the show?
Where were you for the 2 months that you were away for the last few weeks?
Oh, I was away.
He was down visiting the Aero sex shop in Provincetown.
Toys of Eros, it's called.
That Mrs.
By the way, I
Hudson
did go. I've been
runs. He's been
I've
there
gone
several
into
times.
Toys of Eros twice.
They were
and asked if this is true, and asked if it's on Commercial Street. Asked, is Lee here? Who is Lee? Jordan's mother, meaning the daughter. The daughter has gone out with the guy's 49.
Those summertime cops had to come.
And you know what they say every
threaten
time
them.
you ask where Lee is? Lee here?
What?
Who wants to know?
Who wants to know?
Who wants to know?
Well, I just was in there, and they told me all about the bathing suit you bought, Jim. I was quite.
Oh, really?
Wow,
I did get it there.
Yeah, I was a little shocked.
It's impressive. Okay, what are you doing on the show there?
We're going to be speaking to Marianne Leone about her new
book. Great. It's so terrific. I just finished it last night.
Yeah, it's called Christina the Astonishing.
And she's
really
great, too.
funny. And we'll talk about Rachel Rausch, a rare artist who was, first of all, she won the lottery and also was a huge celebrity painting in the 16 and 1700s. And then we'll talk about the Seven Fingers and their theater/circus passengers at the ART.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Welcome back finally, Jared. It's good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Jared. Okay, thank you for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio, and to everybody who came to
Thank
see
you
the
all. We
show down at the
appreciate it.
Boston Public Library, especially Mike from North Carolina has come from a long way away. Thank you. You keep up with us 24/7 wherever our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we are back here with Massachusetts Secretary of Education Patrick Tutwiler on the start of the school year. GBH's Jared Bowen, you just saw him. Harvard National Security expert Juliet Kayyem. Joshua Croak and Kaylin Lamb from the Worcester-based Love Your Labels joined to talk clothing and community ahead of Queer AF, their annual fashion show extravaganza. We want to thank
You know what's going to be on live at the library tomorrow, right after us for the first time?
What?
The Culture Show.
Culture Show.
Now Wednesdays and Fridays live at the library.
Fridays.
I said that.
We want to thank our staff, Zoe Matthews, Aiden Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer, John the Claw Parker, our executive producer, Jane Bologna, who got stuck in the bathroom for 4 hours. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Gaia, Bradley Lewis, Juan Jose Cadena, our host of the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. The Culture Show starts immediately after us today, and it's going to start immediately after us on Wednesdays and Fridays starting this week. I'm Margery Egan.
Jim Browdy.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great afternoon. Hope you can tune in tomorrow.